okay.
Wrong group to ask.
Yeah, apparently.
No, not apparently. It's always been the wrong group to ask.
You got to hydrate.
God damn it, elk. I don't know what I did. There's my water.
That was the fucking elk.
Oh, that's what it was, Delling. Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. I apologize. This is going to be a little offbeat for me. I'm not going to be... Oh, God, we're dropping frames. This is going to be interesting. This might end up being a cam down experience, but that's fine. No, we're still going to start off stream the way we start off every stream. Maybe not. It wasn't going to give me fire. That's not a good sign. Come on. I get it. You already have one candle going, but come on now. Alright. I'm hoping it's not lagging too much, but I really don't know. That's okay. Alright. I don't... Oh, God. All of the above. Okay. People can hear us. We're good to go. There has to be fire. Well, there is fire, so it's okay. We're okay. We've got fire going. So I don't...
That's it. I mean, we're a lot of things, but I don't think okay is on that list.
If we say we're okay, then we're okay.
Uh-huh. Remember that.
Also, baby, we know. Oh, boy.
That's all I'm saying.
So as I said, there's going to be a little bit different stream as you guys have gotten all the forewarnings about everything that this is going to be, like I said, a little bit different from my usual streams. It may end up being really heavy in certain spots. So I want to preface this entire thing with a potential trigger warning. There will be potentially, well, there is going to be mentions of psychological abuse, manipulation. There will be mentions of narcissism, so on and so forth, things associated with that. If you are uncomfortable at any point, please feel free to leave. That is absolutely okay. Your guys' as the viewers' well-being is my #1 priority. I went through it, doesn't mean you guys need to get it secondhand, okay? I understand we're a community, I understand we're a family, but that's not how that works, okay? I'm always gonna worry about it, Dumpling. I'm always gonna worry about it. But yeah, I just wanted to, we're gonna start there. And now we're gonna go all the way back to the beginning. If you're new here, you might be confused, because you might not have been here for the Connor era. If you were here for the Connor era, well, a lot of you kind of went, what the fuck? I was just telling them right before we started. A lot of you went, what the fuck? When it went from, in May 30th, I put out a message that Connor and I split. That was when Connor and I originally split. And then come August, some new information came out. Him and I had a bit of a little spat. And the message went out that we are no longer friendly. He is no longer welcome in my community. So on and so forth. So this is kind of like the explanation of where it started and where this went to. What just blipped on my screen? That was interesting. Okay. I don't know if that showed up on stream for everybody else, but something popped up.
A little white square?
Yeah, I don't know what it was though, because whatever app that attempted to open proceeded to go away. Unless it was my internet correcting itself, because now I have the little green square in the corner instead of red, which means it's streaming properly. So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna put these out in chat before I start. Makes my life easier. And neither of them are working. That's lovely. Nightbot isn't working tonight. Elk, you're on your own. Damien, you guys are on your own. I'm sorry. I don't know why Nightbot isn't working, but it's not. Which means we're gonna have no social links or anything tonight. I don't have time to fix it, so. Yay! But that's fine. Anyway. I'm avoiding the subject at hand. We're just gonna go right into it.
You are.
Okay, like I said, it's a lot. So, like I said, those of you who have been here since the start will remember when it came out that I was going with Sketchy. Some of you might not. Some of you were really up close and personal with everything that went down with Sketchy. But I'm not going to go too much into that other than the fact that it is relevant to everything that happened with... okay, there is a big delay. Alright, but at least it's not... As long as it's not lagging all over the place, then it's okay. It's because I had shitty Wi-Fi and then all of a sudden I had good Wi-Fi. But me dating Sketchy does come into play with the whole Connor thing because Connor, Sketchy, and I were involved in a polyamorous relationship. Mine and Sketchy and mine and Connor's relationships were mostly separate other than the fact that Sketchy and Connor were in agreement on what happened between the three of us. We all sat down, talked about it, and figured out kind of where the ground rules were on the different sides of the relationship. And at the time, everything was going well. Like, the reason why I decided to take on a second relationship and enter into polyamory with those two was because Sketchy was busy a lot. At that time, Sketchy was running his own podcast. He was running his own Twitch stream. He was running his own community. He was building an RP. I think he's still in the process of building an RP. I'm not really still in contact with him as much as I was. So he was busy a lot. And I was missing a lot of the quality time and things like that that I needed within a relationship. And I was able to find that in Connor. And it was easy for me to open up and have a poly relationship there. Like, I ended up... If you don't understand polyamory, this won't make sense to you. But together they fit what I needed from a relationship. And that worked out great for the first 2-3 months, and then it just kind of didn't work so well. Sketchy slowly withdrew, and I ended up breaking things off with Sketchy, and it just ended up being Connor and I. During that time, Connor was extremely supportive. Connor was really good. Connor was always there. When I needed something, he was just a text away, and oftentimes, like, he picked up on things before I even said anything. And he went out of his way to be present. And he was fully present and aware of what went on between Sketchy and I. There was a lot of transparency there. He understood that the reason that Sketchy and I ended up calling it quits with Sketchy was because the time and the effort wasn't there. There wasn't the commitment to the relationship. There wasn't the time being spent. The man went a week without talking to me because a video game dropped. A simple good morning, good night text would have been nice. But, like I said, this isn't about Sketchy, this is about Connor. But it's relevant because Connor ended up doing the same thing further down the line, despite knowing how it had affected me the first time. But as I said, Connor was really present. He was really upfront, and these guys, more so, I think Matt was the one I was closest to at this point. Giggles and Elk hadn't fully come into play yet at this point. But Connor was present. He was available when I needed something. Like I said, he was there. And he was open and honest about where he was, what he was doing. Like, if I had a question, he would answer it. I very seldom had questions, but if I had a question, he didn't dance around the subject. There was always a ready answer. For the most part, he was making it a priority to make sure that I had what I needed, just as I was making it a priority that he had what he needed. But everything started to change in February when Sketchy and I split. Thank you, Elk. Sketchy and I split on the 10th of February. And that had a huge impact on Connor and I's relationship. And I will go into that a little bit more, but this was stuff I didn't know at the time. Some of his friends came out, and he mentioned a couple times offhand before shutting up and moving on to a different topic and changing the topic of the discussion, that when I was dating him and Sketchy, it was a competition in his mind. He never truly valued it or respected it as a polyamorous relationship. Which at the time, he agreed to a polyamorous relationship and saw it as one. But after the fact, it's come to be that it was more a matter of, this is my window of opportunity, this is my ability to get to her, like, this is... Otherwise, I'm not going to have a chance with her. If I don't agree to a poly, she's going to keep dating him, and I'm not going to get a chance. Type thing, because he said on several occasions that I'm going to win her. He's not going to end up with her, I'm going to end up with her, like, she's going to be mine, just watch. Like, I'm telling you, I'm going to win. Like, it was a competition to him, it was a game, it wasn't... There was no respect for Sketchy and I's relationship. And that became evident later on. And to me, in the moment, it just seemed like he had lost respect for Sketchy because of how he was treating me. Not that there was no respect in the beginning. It was just a matter of he stopped hiding the lack of respect because now it was an appropriate sense for him to not have respect for Sketchy because of what was going on. And like I said, things started to deteriorate further after that. Like, come February, I started getting closer with Giggles. I wouldn't say we were quite the best friends that everybody came to know us as, but we were starting to hang out more and, like, in the group chat, and rumors of, like, the simp house started flying out more. I shouldn't say that word on stream. That's a bad word on Twitch. But rumors of the... Yeah, I know. So, rumors of the house started flying around, and, like, we started ideas with that. Started in February. They didn't become more concrete until April. Spring of April, because that's when we really started. Well, mid-end of March, because it was after your birthday that we kind of started. You kind of got yoinked into the group. We're like, we need another person. Giggles, you're a part of this now. Is kind of how it happened.
I joined in the PC, and they're like, are you willing to go to...
Yeah, are you want to move in with us? We need more people. And Matt got yoinked in, and it just kind of became a whole thing. But slowly but surely, he started drifting. Like, he wasn't as present. And around that time, I think it was after your birthday that you came to me, wasn't it, Giggles? Or was
No, before.
It was before? Because it was after you came to me that he slowly started... Well, he got upset about that. There was something that went on in Giggles' personal life, and he came to me about it, and that was kind of the first thing that Giggles and I bonded about. I'm not going to go into more detail about that, but that was kind of like the first thing that we bonded over, and it brought us closer together. And it ended up being a thing that, well, if you were in the server, you know I spent a lot of nights on call with Giggles as well as on call with Connor for personal reasons. There was other stuff going on that doesn't need to be brought up. And Connor got very upset about this. Often. Despite being read into the situation, explained that why it was and that it was for a legitimate reason. And if he had an issue with it, he could join the VC at any time. And realistically, they were on phones next to each other. There was no... I don't know what the whole... I can understand to an extent if he wasn't read in on the situation. But given he was read in on the situation, and at that point there was nothing between Giggles and I. He was a friend in the server that was in the Snapchat group chat. I don't know where that man was going with that.
Oh god, the Snapchat group chat.
We're not gonna... Oh boy, the Snapchat group chat. Mitzi, if you're in chat, and Dumpling, you guys will remember the Snapchat group chat. But it just kind of, like I said, he slowly started withdrawing. It kind of snowballed from there. And when he had to move back, he was living by himself. And when his rent was up and he had to move back into his parents' place, he also changed. Which I can understand for the first, 2 weeks to a month of having moved, right? Adjusting to new surroundings, adjusting to new routine, things like that, things changing. I can understand that, but when it's 2 months later and you're still... Nothing is the same. it becomes an excuse at that point. And it wasn't just a matter of like not being present. It was actively trying to avoid being present, if that makes sense. Like, there was never a point of where I ever asked Connor. Like, there was never a point where I said, hey, where were you? Who were you with? Yada, yada, yada. Until it came to a point where I had reason to. Later, near the end of our relationship, I did. Because at that point, he had been sneaking off places and not telling me. He had been hanging out with his ex. Things like this. That should not have been happening. And most of you know me personally that are in chat, because those of you who had involvement with the Connor thing know me personally. I'm not a person that asks questions. You can ask Giggles. I don't give a fuck where he goes, who he talks to, who he hangs out with. I have a problem when they make him uncomfortable, but for the most part, I don't give a shit. Like, and that was the same way I approached the relationship with Connor. I don't care who you hang out with. And I would have loved to bring Kiwi Matt, his best friend, in on this, but Kiwi is a little tired of the whole relationship bullshit. He was kind of our run between more than Matt and Giggles were, because other Matt, Kiwi Matt, was the run-in since the start. Like, when he introduced me to Kiwi, and Kiwi was who I went to because he knew Connor better than the rest of us did. They'd been best friends since middle school. Like, they knew each other. So it was someone I trusted to give me valid information. He did. And I didn't listen to him, which is, well, my fault. But at the start of Connor and I's relationship, Connor's ex was still very present in his life. And I'm not a person that cares about people's exes. Like, if you're still, because I'm still friends, like, with Sketchy. Like, we still have a relationship. We don't have the relationship we had before, obviously. But, like, I'm still on good terms and still talk to them occasionally, things like that. So I'm not a person that really cares, as long as you're being respectful of the present relationship. I don't care if you want to talk to your ex anymore, because, yeah, maybe it ended amicably. And that maybe should have been a warning for me. When he came down from having... So they had a dog together. I should probably give context. Well, they were living together, and they were very well involved, and they had a dog together, and when they split, she took the dog. And they used to meet up still because shared custody of the dog and whatnot. It ended up being she kept custody of the dog, and they didn't talk after what happened, supposedly, but I'll get to that, the supposedly part later. He went up to the dog park, and he was supposed to take... I don't remember the fucking dog's name. It's a little schnauzer thing. But he was supposed to take the dog to the dog park, and then she was supposed to pick it up from him at the dog park, and she ended up kissing him. And he came back on his part. He came back and told me. But then he was sitting in a position of, I don't know what to do. Like, she's messing with my head, things like that. And I was like, well, okay, I'm going to remove myself from the situation, and you need to make a decision. And at that point, he had made the decision. He said, okay, I want to start this relationship with you. I don't want to go back to that relationship with him. And he just was like, yes, I'm fully committing to you. I want to pursue this relationship. Like, I'm not going to talk to her. I'm going to tell her that Minnie, that was the dog's name. He's going to tell her, you have to keep Minnie, or I have to keep Minnie. We have to figure this out. But this can't be a thing that happens. Like, I'm in a relationship now. You need to watch the boundaries. You need to be mindful of that and be respectful of that. And that was that. Didn't hear anything about it. Until she, out of the blue, showed up. She had some emergency in her life, supposedly, and this was end of February. She showed up at his house and basically, supposedly, threw Minnie at him and left. And didn't come back for a week. And they had issues and conversations within that. And I said, okay, like, I thought you guys figured this out, like, what's going on? And in his defense, like, supposedly he didn't know. Which, if she truly threw a dog at him and left for a week, I don't blame him in that respect, but still, it was like, okay, fine. And then he kind of sat me down and he goes, okay, I can't do this anymore. I know it's stressing you out. It's stressing me out. I promised that I would commit to this relationship. I'm going to block her. Like, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. And he sat down and he looked me in the eyes and he promised, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. I'm going to block her. It's causing both of us too much stress. She clearly can't respect the relationship. She clearly can't respect the boundaries in place. And that's going to be that. And I said, okay, we're done. Life's going to be easy again. Yeah, no, not easy. Timeline-wise of where all these lectures fall is a little bit fuzzy. But there were a lot of lectures I got. Some of you may remember a TikTok that I posted for Giggles' birthday. I had a lecture about that. How it is disrespectful to post videos or Instagram posts or anything like that for someone who is not your partner. This is, mind you, after Sketchy and I split. And it's disrespectful, and I shouldn't be doing that, and that he is the only person I should be posting. Mind you, when I posted him, he didn't say anything, and if you had ever read any of the comments on anything, even the most wholesome things were not wholesome comments in return, especially on my TikToks. Yes, that was near early March, because Giggles' birthday is near the start of March, so that was about that timeline. Moving forward, near the end of March was when he moved back home. And he was living with his parents, so there's an adjustment period there. About a week and a half prior to that, he had gotten Toby. If you guys remember Toby, his little black kitten. I feel so bad for that cat. But he was really good with Toby in the start. He really was. And Toby, I mean, it got to a point where some days he was literally throwing the cat around, which, I mean, I throw Diesel around. Diesel's not there, but you've seen me throw Diesel around, but usually it's on a bed or something. And it's usually feet first out the door. When I say he was throwing Toby around, I mean like he was grabbing him by the tail and throwing him around. But that is besides the point. When he got Toby, he calmed down a lot better. Toby was good for him in the respect that it helped him calm stuff down. And I mean, Connor had a lot of mental health issues that I, again, won't overly go into. But he was autistic. He has a narcissist complex. He has ADHD. He suffers from depression, things along those lines. There were a few others that weren't diagnosed. He was in the process of going to a therapist post-relationship. But that's, again, another whole can of worms that we're attempting to get into eventually. But just, I guess, the further it went, the more and more he started to withdraw. Like, he introduced me to a server with all his mates from New Zealand. I ended up getting really close with a lot of them, especially Matt. Like, Kiwi Matt kind of took me under his wing and kind of introduced me to the rest of them. And the boys were really, really good when we split. The irony was a lot of them were like, took you long enough, was the general gist of what I got from the server when we split, especially from Kiwi Matt. But they were all super supportive and they were really nice. And he introduced me to them, and we used to do weekly game nights with them. And we'd play GTA together or something stupid, and they'd kill my ass in something because they thought it was funny. But I admit it, we had a lot of fun playing with the boys. But when he was with the boys, it was kind of a bragging point almost, is what it felt like. It's like, here's my girlfriend, she plays video games. Like, type thing is what it more felt like. It was, whenever I talk about my relationship with Connor, I very much relate it to or use the euphemism of a trophy. Something to be won, a prize to be possessed, and then put on a shelf and neglected until somebody comes around and there's an opportunity to brag about it. Any chance he got, he would brag about it. But whenever I needed something, it slowly became less and less he was there, and the second I needed to bring something up, it was always a pity party for him. Like, I couldn't talk about anything with him without it being my fault, or it being, oh, like, you just hate me, like, why don't you just break up with me, type thing. And it was really, really hard. Like, I really liked him. I honestly wanted to try and make it work out. And I asked Matt, asked Giggles, it went through a lot of pain trying to make it work. And I went out of my way to make sure, like, he was comfortable. And those are things that I'm now realizing that how deep the manipulation went. Like, I'm slowly starting to get back in contact with people. You guys may have noticed, if you were around for that era, you may have noticed my slow withdrawal from the server, my lack of presence in VCs, my lack of presence in online games. We used to play Among Us every single fucking night. And then now, when's the last time we played a game in the server? I'm slowly starting to be more active now that I'm in a better place and I have the mental capacity and I'm not dealing with that trauma and I'm not dealing with that guilt and everything. And I mean, what just happened recently is obviously going to take a toll, and there's going to be a lot of changes coming to the server again. But that's something to discuss at a later date. But there's like a lot of things, like I said, in the moment. That's the thing about manipulation. You don't realize in the moment how deep it actually goes and what is actually happening. Like, I don't know if it was you, Matt, or if it was Giggles that pointed out. One of you just posed the question of what all did he have access to. And sitting and looking at that, it was like, holy shit. Because he was constantly making me feel like I had to prove something, like I was in the wrong. And on several occasions accused me of cheating on him with Giggles. Which, if you guys know me, you know I'd never do that. And if you know Giggles, you know he would never do that. And that started happening, what would it have been? Matt? I need your brain cells. What time would it have been that you started bugging about Giggles? What time would it have been that I told? That was April, because I was living in the upstairs.
Yeah, it's about that time. But I also feel like you're just really neglecting to tell the fact that despite his best effort, he was driving or trying to drive you from everybody who spoke against him.
Getting there.
Okay.
That's where I was going with the alienation part. But yeah, I just kind of had to ping pong back to the whole control factor. It's kind of all connected, because while Matt is right, he's trying to drive me away from anyone. Damien's making fun of you, Matt.
I know, I saw. I'm trying to care at this point.
Oh, honey. No, like Matt said, driving a wedge and kind of like pushing away people. If you were in the server in the earlier days, you would remember Gamer Jinx. Like, she was one of my closest friends. I've only recently started rekindling a relationship with them that I lost because simply he was like, come hang out with me. Like, you need to hang out with me tonight. Like, why are you talking to them? You should be talking to me. You should be spending time with me. Why are you always spending time with the boys? What are you doing with the boys? And into, again, that controlling aspect, like, he had access to my Snapchat. He had access to my TikTok. He was an admin in my Discord server. At any point, if he thought I was cheating on him, I was in a VC in the server all the time. He could join the VC if he was really that concerned about it. Like, he had access to my Instagram. Like, he knew.
At some point, I think you added me to your TikTok.
Yeah,
At that point, I was mostly questioning how much he had access to. Because I got dropped in a group chat with people that had access to it.
that was when I was taking breaks and had personal shit going on. You, Gamer Jinx, King Death Hex, Kevin, and Connor had access to it. But that changed when I got banned, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But Kevin's another one that I haven't talked to Kevin in forever, and King Death Hex, I haven't talked to them in forever. Because how many people I've lost contact with because he monopolized so much of my time, and he went out of his way. And the worst part of it was when I wanted to do something, no, it couldn't be done. Like, those of you who, again, have been here, have heard me complain, I don't know how many times, about Phasmo. Because I wanted to play, and he said, oh, wait for me, we'll play together. I still haven't played Phasmo, and now my PC is dying to the point where I can't run Phasmo. And Minecraft, that's another thing. I don't know if you guys have seen Gabs Molders and Jacksepticeye, Sean, play Minecraft together, and it's adorable. And I wanted to do that so bad. And he refused to play Minecraft with me. Refused. And then all of a sudden, he decided...
He would speedrun.
Yeah. He finally decided to get... Well, we had a server. And Connor was a part of it. We all had a server. And that was courtesy of Zach. That was one of the nice things that... And again, I'm not going into that. But Giggles and I ended up playing a lot of stuff together on the server. We bonded over Minecraft as well. And Giggles ended up unintentionally doing a lot... Well, it might have been intentional, but to me it was unintentionally doing a lot of the things that I was hoping Connor would have done when we were playing. He ended up doing a really grand gesture with, like, flowers and fireworks and stuff like that, but at that point it was kind of past the point. Like, So, for context, I realize it's a Minecraft world and this is really petty. But we had built bases next to each other, Giggles and I had gone out of my way, like, there was nice, like, plain scenery, and there was a few trees here, and there was, like, a river, and the ocean was off to the side, and, like, I had built mine into the side of a mountain, and, Connor went out of his way to build a giant middle finger right in the middle, directly in the middle, and he thought it was a joke, and he thought it was funny after I put in hours of work landscaping. To the point where I moved my base across the map and didn't tell anybody. And then couldn't understand why I was upset. Despite, like, he knew, like, that I was putting in work, and, like, because he would repeatedly come over, like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just landscaping for my view, or I'm, like, finishing up the front planes of my house. And whatnot. And circle back my ADHD, I went off on an entire tangent. But, like, Giggles and unintentionally doing things, like, that would piss him off. Like, we would build houses together, and when Giggles came across a material that I hadn't found yet, because, well, I am the stereotypical, I'm picking flowers, and I'm chasing bees around the map, and type things like that. So, like, when he came across, like, when he had a bunch of iron, and I needed something, he'd bring me iron. Or if he found, like, there was...
The first time I found diamonds.
Yeah.
And,
that pissed him off.
Well,
too.
I told you I was getting diamonds, so, well, I had 6 diamonds, so, well, there was enough for a pickaxe, which I wanted. So I gave you 3 diamonds. And then, I think, later, he was wondering why you got diamonds.
He was upset because I had diamonds, and he was also upset because you would find flowers. And specifically when you found my favorite flowers, you would go out of your way to go all the way across the fucking map to bring me flowers to go back to whatever the hell you were doing. And it would piss him off. So he decided that he wanted to do a couples Minecraft stream, which I was so excited for because that's what I wanted to do. And I thought it was going to be that. It turned out he just wanted to stream Minecraft with me and use it for the clout of, you know, couples Minecraft. Everybody likes to watch it. It's cutesy, whatever. He went off and did his own fucking thing. Totally disregarded everything I was doing and didn't even notice when I left and started building my own base on the other side because he was ignoring me. And eventually showed up when it was mostly done and then was going to destroy it. No. It's my materials. I harvested. I built it because you were being an asshole. Because he wanted to speedrun the map, not just play and, like, build a base and, like, build it up. Like, no, it was supposed to be we were playing together, but it didn't end up being that. And that was kind of just the start. And the reason why I say he was using for clout is because that came out as confirmation post-relationship. That was part of why the split became ugly. Like, as I said, everyone was kind of like, what the hell? It went from being you guys were still friends, he was still welcome in the community, to no, don't bring him up, don't talk about him like he's not welcome. Some of his friends from New Zealand let it slip that the only reason he was with me was because he wanted what I had. He wanted to make use of my community. He wanted to adopt it as his own. He wanted the clout. He wanted the attention. And he needed it to make his content creation thrive. And which, looking back on it, makes a lot of sense. Because when I initially reached out, I had 27 followers. I had 27 followers. I had 27,000 followers on TikTok. And he had under 500 followers at that point in time. And I can honestly say I'm guilty of the same thing. When a big account follows me, I go, what the fuck? And you pay attention to them, right? It's like a huge, and it can be a huge ego trip, and that's understandable. But going to the lengths he did is
No.
absurd.
Sorry. It's just a fucking mental breakdown. That's all it gets.
Oh, you mean like you had when I followed you?
Yeah. Not getting into that.
Hey, I had a mental breakdown when Luce followed me. Fuck, when Icy followed me. But, like, the lengths that he went to and, like, the more shit that has come out, the more it's like, oh, fuck. Like, a lot of things make sense now. Like, now that I've heard that, looking back on it, I got banned on April Fool's Day. Like, 12:02 a.m. on April 1st, my account went down. And then his treatment of me and our relationship just deteriorated from there. Like, his effort became less and less. It was deteriorating already, but it slowly became less and less. And it got to a point, like, at some point, I had to move rooms and whatnot. I was staying in a completely separate room. That was near the end of the month. That was around my brother's birthday. That was around, like...
May vacation for me.
Was it that far? Well, would have been start of May, so yeah.
End April, begin May.
Yeah, because it was... Well, I was there for the 20th, because the 20th was when he proposed. And I was also there for my birthday, because I was yeah, that was an interesting birthday. But stupid little things like that, too. Like, time zone-wise, he's 19 hours ahead, or 5 hours back tomorrow. So time zone-wise, like, he was around for my birthday. It was a little different for time zone with Matt and Giga's was, because they were 8 hours ahead. So a little bit different to keep time zone, especially when I have stuff going on. Like, by the time I was done, they're usually in bed, right? Whereas his day, he's just getting off work by the time I'm done stuff. So, yeah, if you were in the community again, you would have probably sat in my TikTok live with me while I ate cake by myself, alone in my bedroom, because my family hates me, but that's fine. It was a very depressing birthday.
Yeah,
he didn't talk to me the entire day. Not even a message, not a happy birthday.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The funny thing I thought is I spent the whole day with you and you didn't pop in once.
No.
You did not put effort into it. I didn't know if you even got a message or...
I got 2 Snapchats.
Yeah.
One was streaks. Don't laugh at my pain. Give it 6 months, then you can laugh at me, okay? Then you can laugh at me.
We're laughing at his
I'm
stupidity.
not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at...
It's
Matt
pathetic.
is laughing the way that we want to kill the guy.
But, like...
That's fine.
We don't say the K word, we say humanely put down.
But I don't think there will be anything humane about it, but...
Real discretion is advised.
No, it was just, like, little things like that. And I think... See, a lot of you didn't know this, and this is recently, like, I've become more comfortable talking about it. Yes, Damien, unalive. But I've become more comfortable talking about it. And this wasn't something that was made publicly known to the server. And this just kind of goes to show, like, if you guys know me and actually, like, know me, I'm a very strong personality. Like, I'm very stubborn. Getting me to change my mind is very, very difficult. And it just kind of goes to show how deep manipulation can go and how convincing people can be. Because I remember regretting it that night going to bed, but not having the ability to express it. Like, so Connor and I were engaged. That's what I've been dancing around the subject. Connor and I were engaged. And he did I think the main reason what led to me agreeing to it was the way he did it. He did everything right. Like, we watched an episode of Scooby-Doo, which he almost ruined Scooby-Doo for me, which makes me want to cry, because Scooby-Doo has, like, been my comfort thing forever, and I am going to cry if I'm not careful. It's been my comfort thing forever. And those of you who know me, there is a quote in the Discord. I did not stay up and watch TikTok all night. I was watching Scooby-Doo and having a mental breakdown. There's a difference. Because Scooby-Doo is, like, my comfort show. It is just kind of where I go when I need a break from reality, and something that it's the one good part of my childhood. And if you're close with me, you'll know what's happened with my parents this year, and you'll know how my relationship with my dad has changed, my relationship with my mom, and everything like that, and how kind of a lot of aspects of my childhood aren't so welcoming anymore, and to still have that one piece. And I don't, whether it was intentional or not, almost ruined that. That kind of, it's really hard. That is, if you were privy to the Snapchat streaks when the boys were here, that is why Scooby-Doo was on in the background 24/7, is we were making it a good thing. But, like, we watched the Scooby-Doo movie, and then he's like, I have something to show you, and he had found this song, and if you were on the TikTok live that day that I had a mental breakdown, I will post it in the Discord, because I cannot play it on Twitch, because I'll get copyrighted, I'll get DMCA. But welcome, Chicken Wing. Yes, Scooby-Doo is amazing. But just, like, he played that song, and the song was super sentimental. I forget who sings it, but it's Better Half of Me, and, like, talking about, like, he knows that sentimental things mean more, and anybody who knows me, sentimental means far more than monetary value. Like, I would much rather you honestly tell me how you feel than you buy me something. Like, that's just where it's at. I have mental breakdowns when people buy me things. I can't process it. Ask Matt. Doesn't go well.
Technically, I never bought you anything.
You sent me $200 for my birthday.
That's gifting money. I don't see how that's me buying
Darling, you had a mental breakdown over a box.
Yeah, I did. You had a mental breakdown over a box too. Shut up. You don't get to talk.
You had a mental breakdown over a box.
I'm just going to Kettle Black here. It's fine.
We all have mental breakdowns. People get. Well, if you've been in my streams, or you've seen the YouTube videos, or you've seen the clips, how I reacted to getting a giant bit donation from our Josh. Yeah, but, like, super sentimental things, and he took kind of a lot of things that were sentimental, like Scooby-Doo, like a song, and then talked about, like, kind of where I wanted to go, and, like, how I was doing so well in school, and, like, I was managing everything super well, and how I was handling things with my family. And he brought, like, Diesel into it and whatnot, and Toby, and he kind of, like I said, he kind of did everything right. It was like, okay, yeah, like, I can, and at that point I still saw myself spending, like, there were some quirks, but, like, you look at it, right, like, not every relationship's perfect. Like, no relationship is perfect. There's gonna be ups and downs. You're gonna fight. You're gonna have issues, right? Like, we can work this out. We're gonna do this. And again, that just kind of goes to show the level of manipulation. But I had agreed, and I kid you not, 5, maybe 10 minutes after, he goes on to talk about, knowing full well, for context and disclosure here, I'm not going to go into details onto what it was really. I can do that another time. If people have questions, I'm more than happy to answer. I don't really care. But I have had issues with substance abuse in the past. I have had issues with abusive relationships in the past related to substance abuse. I have relationship trauma. I have lost people due to things like this. That is why there are the rules that there are on my server. Is for personal comfort, and having been an addict and things like that, it's a concern for me. I don't like having it around me. And he went on and on about how proud he was that he managed to do it on 420 for both of us, and how it was so cool, and it was really, really immature, the fact that he was just excited about the fact that it falls on 420. But knowing damn well about my substance abuse issues and my history with that and how I felt about it, and knowing that I chose to stay away from that. Like, he used to smoke pot. And I told him, stay away from me with it. I don't care if you want to do that while you're living there and I'm living here, that's fine. I don't want you to bring it into my house. Like, if we end up, this works out and we're living together, I don't want you doing it in my house. If you want to go out and do it in the shed and hang out in the shed all day and then come in at the end of the night, fine. But I don't want it in my house. I don't want it around me. I don't want to be exposed to it. And if you can't respect that, then this isn't going to work. It's just a personal thing due to past stuff. I don't want to go back to where I was. It brought me to a very dark place with all my substance. Mind you, pot was not the only thing that, again, sorry for another time. But it's not wanting to go back to that state to be so dependent on things like that. And he knew that, and he knew how important that was. And the fact that he outright just threw that out the window to be so excited, like I said, oh, I did on 420 for both of us, like it's the same time, like it's the same day, like, and oh, we can get married on 420, and it'll be great, and it'll be funny, and like we can have a weed-themed wedding and shit like that. And knowing full well what my standpoint was, and the fact that there was the trauma involved with that. Yeah, used to is a very loose term. Because he claimed that he gave it up when he ran out the first time at the New Year's party. And then he went and bought more behind my back. That was a whole nother issue. Went and bought more, but there was a lot of things he did behind my back. But he went and bought more behind my back. And then it was kind of like, okay, whatever, do whatever the fuck you want. I was getting to the point of that. And that was with other issues too, which I'm about to bring up here because I know Matt has plenty to say on that subject. But just, yeah, and again, substance abuse. And he's like, hey, when I move home with my parents, like, I'm going to stop because my parents don't want me using it. Like, it's illegal there. It's legal here, but it's illegal there, right? And it's like, okay, my parents don't want me using it and stuff like that, so I'm going to stop. It did not stop when he moved. And he's like, okay, I'm going to stop vaping too, because he used to vape. And he's like, well, you're quitting once your pot is empty. Like, we'll quit together. Because I used to smoke heavily, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to be done after this pot. Yeah, Connor was not good for my... Giggles can especially vouch for that, because when it got it, I went through a lot of pots. Like a pot a day of 50 Nick. Not good. But just little things like that. And again, back to the behind my back thing. This was later, mid-April? And it was end of April because I was living in the upstairs room when this whole specific incident went down. But there were several cases of that where he'd ask me to help him with something, be it within the relationship, like tell him when something's gone or like when he's crossing a line. Or one specific case that I'm going to let Matt take over this here in a minute. But talking about like his spending. He was really bad for like buying action figures and stuff and like almost not being able to pay rent. Because he wanted to buy these action figures, or he wanted to buy a lightsaber, or he wanted to buy things. And he's like, okay, I know I need to be better with my spending. I know I need to be saving. I know I need to be doing this. Like, and especially since I'm going to go to school, like my first year is free, but next year's not going to be. Like, I want you to help me with this. And then anytime I try to say, hey, like, do you need, and it wasn't like I was being a bitch, like, no, you don't fucking need it. Like, don't buy it. It was, hey, do you need this or do you want this? And have you paid your bills and have you put money aside? If you've paid your bills and put your money aside and you want to buy it and you have the money for it, fine. But you're wanting me to help you budget. And then he would snap at me. And I will let Matt continue this specific situation if you want, Matt.
Sure. There's really, to simplify all of it in the lamest terms, we were sitting, I don't remember how many, or you, me, I think Giggles was also present.
Yeah.
And I just brought it up, like saying, hey, ask Matt, he has a small business degree, and saying if you want. Like, sure. And I explained to him, and then, first of all, just in a respectful manner, saying, hey, first of all, don't ask people for help if you intend to verbally assault them every time they just make a suggestion that you ask for yourself. And at some point, he was like, he understood, and yeah, he was gonna try to say, hey, it's fairly simple to make a budget. First of all, there is just Microsoft Excel. If you just search a budget, it will come with a standardized one. And I said to him, I'm happy to make one for you. It'll take like 10 minutes. And at some point, I don't remember what he said, but he said something, and I just went completely mute and didn't say anything. And after probably tolerating that for 5, maybe 10 minutes at the max, I said to him, hey, how are you this blind that you cannot see this person that you're actually caring about? Turn it completely 180 degrees for 10 minutes and it just proceeds to still, I think he was talking about videos, like, are you fucking kidding me? Because you're asking somebody to help. First of all, you ask your girlfriend to help you, then she suggests you talk to me, and after you think you'll like try to play the smarter person, proceeds to start then talking about something so fucking stupid or cliche as a video game and not actually paying attention to what's going on around you. And to the point where it had to be up saying, hey, I shouldn't be the one to have to tell you this, but clearly you're blind as a fucking bat. And this is what's going on. And granted, after being verbally, to some extent, assaulted by me because I gave him a piece of my mind, he tried to make a bit of more of an effort, but I also like that. I tell him this is not how it works. You're not only gonna make an effort when people ask you to or bash you for what the fuck you're doing wrong, because that will work for maybe 2 days, a week at the most, and then you'll regress back to what you were. So it's like saying, hey, we tried, and going back to the whole process. He did that for the fucking meme. Like as soon as Keiko heard it, we kind of really agreed on like that was just for a meme. He did that to try and be funny, to put cloud, whatever he wanted to fucking do about it. And there's so many cases where he also like Snapchat me saying, hey, you know what's wrong with her? Saying, yeah, but I'm not gonna interfere because she's not talking to you. I'm not gonna be the middleman. You grow a backbone and grow a spine and own up to what you did. And no, it's just like, oh hey, can you? No, I'm not gonna fix your shit. Because you're the one who treats her more like property than a person. And he got so very jealous. Firstly, he tried to systematically bash anyone who didn't share his viewpoints about she should only be talking to him, and became really possessive, like to a point where I've been here for a year and a half, closer to almost I think in year 10 months now. And when somebody tries systematically breaking somebody that's known ice for a fairly decent while away from her because I don't share his viewpoint, and trying to say like, oh, we were the bad one, and trying to actually come into a VC, and it was so clear because once she joined the VC, their entire mood changed. And it was me, it was Giggle, it was Elk who could be left to pick up the mood once he either left or she left, because when he joined, she completely changed personality. She became from when she was outgoing, like energizing person, like a fucking energizing, but sometimes wouldn't shut up. And completely just turned inwards, wouldn't say anything, would just sit there, sit on her phone, and he would be a complete fucking oblivious, because again, he didn't care. It was a prize, and it was essentially a children's toy nobody else could play with. And when she got the attention from me, from somebody else, he became very possessive about saying, hey, that's my thing, we're talking. At some point I said, don't try and come after me because you feel insecure.
Well, and
there's a reason why, and he knows, Connor, that I was one of the original members, one of the first group that was there, that's left. He says, don't come to me and try to tell me what I should do. First of all, I'm not that person. I value respect very deeply, and so like, don't come at me like that.
Well, and he knew full well that, like you said, that was a real eye opener for me, especially that day when the argument with finances and stuff, and you messaged me and say, hey, you visibly recoiled, like, are you okay? And that was like a huge, like, I wasn't even realizing I was doing it at that point. And just going back to the whole systematic isolation, like, he went for Matt and Giggles because they were threats in his mind. Not necessarily, Giggles was a threat in terms of relationship-wise. Matt was a threat because Matt talked sense into me. Matt said Matt would speak his mind. If there was a problem, Matt would say it. And a lot of times they butt heads on, oh, it's not his place. Oh, it's not his place. And Brandon didn't help matters. Brandon sometimes would stick up for me and say, hey, Connor, what the fuck? But for the most part, Brandon would often side with him like, hey, Matt, that's not your place. What the fuck? And a lot of times, whether it was Matt's place or not, it needed to be said. And I'm grateful, Matt. Don't ever kid yourself. I'm grateful because sometimes it was I didn't know how to say things. And I've said this to Giggles before. There's places where I wish you guys had stepped in where you didn't, but I didn't know how to ask you guys to step in. And there are times like where if you guys hadn't stepped in, you don't understand how much worse it would have been. There was a lot that went on behind closed doors, and I know you guys are aware of some of it, but there's a lot that went on behind closed doors in terms of possessiveness and like interrogation and just kind of who were you with, like what were you guys doing, like what took you so long to come to bed tonight, or like things like that. Even though in a lot of those cases we were actively playing a game, or even I was streaming. It's like I was streaming. You can log on and you can see that I'm streaming. What do you mean? Where was it? And it got to the point where I was second guessing myself. Like, am I, like, especially when it came to Giggles and Matt, like, am I being too friendly? Am I hanging out too much with them? Am I, like, to a point where it's like, even though I knew in my mind, like, these are my friends, like, these are the people that support me, I'm not being too friendly, like, this is how we are, this is how it's always been. And like I said, if you guys are regulars in my community, you know the way that Damien and I interact, you know the way that Blue and I interact, like, fuck, the way Matt and I interact. Fuck, Elk and I have been divorced and married how many times? Like, there's jokes like that that run within the community, and that comes with the social media banter. That's part of, A, being a social media creator, and B, that's part of just the dynamic of what the friend group was. And it didn't change because Connor came into it. It was the same dynamic that was there when I dated Sketchy. It was the same dynamic that was there after I broke up with Sketchy, after I broke up with Connor. That same dynamic is here. Like,
just quickly to spot back to that. As you said, for people who don't know me, I don't really care unless you're one of like a specific group of people. I don't care about your opinion of me. I spent too long like watching shit and not saying, especially when it happened to me as a young child and teenager. I just refuse to let shit slide because I have a very strong moral complex. So if you're gonna do shit, I'm gonna call you out for it. I don't care. Like, I would rather somebody be upset with me than to watch bullshit fly. And Connor didn't appreciate when I said, hey, specifically so I said, hey, this is bullshit because no person should be treated like that. He's being possessive, he's interrogating you over something as simple, because a lot of the times we were just sitting in public VCs. Granted, we don't do that because, again, a lot of us has a lot been going on for the past year and a half. But the reason why that I think stopped a little bit was because we all grew tired of the interrogation, and a lot of us actually at one point, due to him, lost contact because, like we said, Ice was second guessing herself. We were thinking, were we doing something that we shouldn't? Connor was just upset because, again, Giggles was a threat. I was the voice of reason, and I do this also too. I played the devil's advocate. I can see both sides of the story, and I'm blatantly self when somebody are doing something that I see that's bullshit, or when something is just a misunderstanding. And I said, hey, you really need to think about what you're doing, because what you are doing is systematically, I think I actually called it what it was at one point, abused. I think he says you can't talk to these people. Why? Oh, he just don't want to. Yeah, but what's the reasoning behind it? Oh, he doesn't like it. So what?
well, and it was,
Like us, you're not overstepping anything, you're not being too friendly, you're not.
well,
You
and
hacked away so much of your personality, and it's just like.
it goes back to the whole, he had access, like, and again, like, processing it now, it's like, holy shit. And in reality, and that's, when you look at textbook abusive, manipulative cases like that, especially with narcs, that's usually how it goes. They're the one doing stuff, but they make you feel like you're the one doing stuff. They gaslight you. They say, oh, you're the one that's untrustworthy, you're the one that's not. And there would be cases, I have screenshots from multiple occasions where he'd say he'd be at work and what he'd be like, okay, I'll be home in an hour. And I'd be like, hey, I'm just gonna check his snap map, see if he's like close to being home or whatever, like if I have time to do something before he gets home, because he'd want me on call right then and I didn't want to be gone. So I'd check it, and then all of a sudden his snap maps would be off, and then he'd be home 4 hours late, and he'd be like, oh, I don't know why it was off, and traffic was just really bad. Like, you overthink it, you worry too much, like you're in your head, like you're making up stuff that's not true. Like, your snap maps is never on, like why are you worried about mine? It's like, well, first off, my map isn't on to anybody for safety reasons with social media. Like, it's not my fault you're stupid and have your snap maps on when you're doing social media and sharing your snap to random people. It's a safety reason. Mine was never on during ever the course of a relationship. And if you're on my personal Snapchat, even if you're on my TikTok Snapchat, if you check out of them, there's no location data because I don't have it on because it's not safe for me and I don't feel safe having it on. But that wasn't the issue. It was cases like the one night I sat up, and I believe I talked to both you guys about it. I sat up and I waited because he said, oh, I'll be there 20 minutes. Oh, I'll be there. Right, I'll be there. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I decided that night, because sometimes he had a Discord server and we would interchange which Discord server we slept in. And I decided that night I was going to sleep in his Discord server because he was probably gaming with Matt, like Kiwi Matt, when they often gamed in his server. And I was like, he'll see me in his server and he'll come join me, like it'll be a visual reminder type thing. And he had, at first it was just me, Kiwi Matt, Connor, and Alex, another one of his friends from New Zealand that were in his server. And then when I went to go join and tabbed open his Discord, there was another girl named Bella that he had just admitted to the server and was playing one-on-one in our chat, like his and I's personal chat that we slept in, not in the public VC, not in the gamer VC with Matt, in a private VC, and hadn't said anything to me. And I was like, okay, I took screenshots of it, and then I went to bed and I wasn't on call. And then he proceeded to call me and wake me up and not stop calling until I answered him and asked me what he did wrong, what was wrong. Had the audacity to go, what was wrong? Like, I told you I was coming. Why the fuck couldn't you wait? Like, why are you making such a big deal? Like, I was just gaming with a friend. Like, they're a coworker. Like, what the hell is your problem? And then I kind of started like, okay, well, maybe they are just coworker. Maybe I'm overreacting. But why couldn't you play in the general chat when it's literally, what were you saying, what were you doing that Matt or Alex or myself, I mean, I had admin, I owned a server, I could join anyway, but I respected it enough not to. But like, what were you doing that Matt and Alex couldn't be a part of? Or you could have just sent a message. Why couldn't you be in the general chat of your server? Why were you in our chat of all places with someone I had heard nothing about before? Like, that was the big thing for me. Like I said, I'm not a person that, like, at that point, there was so many things, like, it was almost a daily thing that I was texting Matt. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, and I was trying not to involve Giggles in it too much, because Giggles and Connor were starting to have more frequent issues, and Giggles bit his tongue on Matt bit his tongue on a lot of things, to be fair. While they both spoke their mind to an extent, they also bit their tongue on a lot of things. And this incident was just prior to the incident with him having not blocked his ex. And I was on call with you guys, and it was just a matter of Zach offhand mentioned, I don't think Connor follows me on TikTok anymore. Now, whether that was, now looking at everything that's happened with Zach, whether that was a dig and he knew what was going on or not, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but Zach had just offhand mentioned, hey, like, I don't think Connor and I are mutuals on TikTok anymore. I was like, oh, okay, I'll check. And I went through his TikTok, and I noticed he was still mutuals with his ex on TikTok. And I was like, oh, okay, he probably just forgot, because, like, they don't talk on TikTok. Like, most people don't DM and talk on TikTok that much, right? So I was like, okay, now I'm worried about it. So now I'm going to go check his Instagram. Sure as shit, they're still mutuals on Instagram. And I sent him screenshots. And then I went to bed. I was like, I can't do it. I'm having it. You guys are there having a fucking meltdown because you looked me in the face and told me, and like I said, I'm not a person. You want to be friends with your ex, be fucking friends with your ex. But don't sit there and lie to me and say, hey, I'm blocking them. I'm not talking to them anymore. Like, I promise this isn't going to be an issue anymore. Why are you still talking to them? And he couldn't understand why it was such a big deal. Like, oh, you're just being crazy. Like, why are you so paranoid? Like, she means nothing to me. It's like, it's not the fact that she's in your life. I could give a shit less about her being in your life. I'm not that insecure. It's a matter of the fact that you looked me in my face as much as one can over a VC and said, I promise I'm not going to talk to her anymore and I'm going to block her. And he did eventually end up blocking her after that altercation. He's like, fine, like, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. I hope you're happy, like, and was just the principle of it. It wasn't like you can't talk to your ex. It's a matter of you promised. I take promises very seriously. I don't make a promise that I can't keep. And that was kind of a huge, huge thing. It wasn't long after that we split. Because it was kind of came down to the point of, I can't trust you. Why am I dating you? Why am I engaged to you?
That got also to the point where we saw you physically reject in public VCs. Where at a point Matt and I were sitting in a VC with you and Connor, and Matt was kinda, bouncing off Connor because he did another stupid purchase. I can't remember what he did, but we saw you physically reject, and instead of asking if you're okay or what was happening or whatever, he intended on defending himself, and everybody in the VC noticed except for him.
I actually think that was the whole when he bought that VR shit.
Yeah.
And any day caught it. I really took a bashing to him, and people who knows me, especially these people, can attest to that. I might not seem like a guy who can be very vindictive or really raise my voice at people, but I can, and I will once. The thing is, he was been so adamant about trying, saying, hey, I want to fix this, I want to make this work, and again, the reason why I bit my tongue fixing songs where we wanted to believe it and we didn't want to sabotage anything, but at that point, we blatantly see that he didn't care. All bets were off, and I'll cop to me and Gil have had conversation about this without either saying, hey, what the fuck is actually going on here? Not because we didn't want to tell, but because we were seeing the ramifications of what it was doing. Again, because he bashed at us and manipulated us, was saying, hey, these guys keep doing something, like, you're gonna have to choose. That's what I felt like first. That's why we started thinking, what are we gonna do here? Well, at some point, I just lost my shit and saying, fuck this. And that's also why.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead.
That's why Brandon started coming after me, because Brandon started saying, hey, you can't say this, and Brandon ended up choosing a side with Connor because the only thing he was privy to was he saw me verbally assaulting Connor, going after his throat because, hey, you can't say this and this is not your place. Hell if it's not. At that point, me and Brandon were the people who've been here the longest. It's not right. I'm not going to do it, but a lot of shit happened. And they were saying that we also agreed this was not going to fly, and if you saw something like this, we're going to speak up because we care about you and we're all friends. And he started getting upset with me to a point where he tried to turn at me and say, hey, what the fuck is Matt doing? Because Matt shouldn't say these things. And yes, I said things in not a nice way, but much like myself, I is a very stubborn individual, and sometimes the only thing that works is the God on his truth, and I bring a sledgehammer, and I'm not very nice about it when I get to that point. So yes, I told her at some point, what the fuck are you actually doing? Because this is how it is, this is what he's doing, and I would rather any day, also now, risk her disowning me than me seeing things that are unhealthy, being manipulated and abused. I'm willing to take that calculated risk, not because I don't care. But if you guys been here a while, you know the relationship me and I has in that sense, and how we view each other. It's just, I would risk that any day for speaking the mind and actually point out that somebody are doing the things the way they are and how hurtful they are. It came to points where even though we were talking, we could be in a public VC, we could just be in a private, but he supposedly knew everybody and knew, hey, all of us respect it, none of us are going to try to do something, because we all just want to vibe and have fun. And like in the start, Connor didn't show any like real issues or symptoms. Yes, we all thought, I thought, okay, he's a weird guy, but that's what it is. I'm not going to tell people what they should and shouldn't do, and we vibed with it. But it comes to a point where he just became possessive every time John's like, oh, you talk to him. It didn't matter what time it was, weekday, weekend, where he knew we had just plans to either sit, have a drink, just shoot shit and play video games or whatever.
Well, it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that. He'd pull her from BC to he'd be like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, and she came back very upset about it because we were just, one time I think we were just playing fucking Uno or whatever, we were talking and she just got yanked from out of nowhere.
He did that a lot. There was, and it was the point where it's like, fine, whatever, like, I don't care. And he'd get mad because I'd just go to bed and I wouldn't talk to him because I couldn't, it didn't matter what I said to him, he didn't care anyway. And I do remember that there was one time I was having a really bad night and Giggles went out of the way. That was one thing he used to do all the time when I was having a bad night, is he if those of you don't know, Giggles is a musician and he used to play the piano all the time because he knew it helped. And then one night I was having a really bad night. And Connor knew I had a bad day. Like, he knew I had a bad day, and that's why I was hanging out on the server and whatnot. And I gave him shit because he just pulled me out of the VC. He didn't say anything to Giggles. Half the time he didn't say anything to anybody. I would just disappear. And I gave him shit, and I made him put me back.
Yeah, he did that one time when you were helping me because I was having a bad night.
It's also just more the fact that he came in and when he didn't want to be there anymore because, again, we don't know everything that went behind, or like, let's call it closed doors, but come in and say, hey, we should leave because he didn't want to be there anymore. And we've been at some point just talking for 20 minutes, some other times 4 hours, and you just decided, like, he was there for 10-15 minutes and he wasn't getting the attention he felt like that was due to him because I was just focusing on us and just enjoying just sitting there and not actually having a worry, and then he's just like, no, mine.
Well, it wasn't like I gave anybody special treatment aside from, like, yeah, there were the jokes, like I said, there were the jokes about, like, Elk and I being married, and there were, like, the occasional joke, like, there's a whole inside joke with Giggles that came out even before Connor. That came out before Connor, he still hated that joke. I'm gonna take a break here in a little bit because I'm gonna need a break, and I'm gonna attempt to pull up this clip. I have it on my H drive. It is one clip where I was talking about, you can hear it in some of the clips, that's why the clips of Connor have gone away, besides other reasons, the fact that he's attempting to profit off of everything still again. But there's one clip where I was talking about people's height, and the height of the people in the house, like Zach and everything. And at the end I went, and fucking Giggles, because I was mad because he's so fucking tall. And you can just hear him in the background. Pardon? Like, and I got a lecture about that after because my phrasing implied something to my audience. Implied infidelity. Implied ulterior motives. Even though it was just simply the way I phrased it because, as I said, there's a joking tension between us because he's so tall and everybody calls me short.
You are short.
I'm not short. I'm above average. The rest of you are just fucking tall. Don't start this.
You're short.
But
that
like,
was the vertically challenged one.
shut the fuck up, okay? But like, no, he got so upset about that, and like I said, just yoinking me from VCs without. He would, at least when Sketchy used to do it, like, he would send a DM to somebody that was in the VC, like, hey, like, we're going to bed, like, it's late, she needs to be in bed. Connor wouldn't even do that, and it wasn't. Connor didn't do it because, like, it's late, she needs to go to bed. It was, I want her all to myself. Like, I don't feel validated, or I'm having a bad day, I need her. Like, fuck what she's going through, fuck what you guys are going through, I need her, so I'm taking her. And, like, a lot of times, I used to sleep in the VC with the group of the boys when I was having a bad night. and he wouldn't even show up. Like, I would send out a message to the group chat and say, hey, like, this is what's going on. I'm having a bad night. Like, I just need somebody to talk to. Because I knew he was at work. That's why I sent it to the group chat. Because I counted on the boys being there. And I counted on him showing up when he was done work. When he was available. Because I never ask anybody to take time off work. I never ask anybody to take time off school or anything important. Because there's always somebody else I can go to. I knew that. That's why I sent it in the group chat. But the fact that he never once showed up and I woke up by myself or with whoever was left in the VC, whoever came back in the morning or whatever, really hurt. And like, in the month of April, I can honestly say Giggles and Matt are the only reason I'm still alive. And that's a really dark thing because I know Giggles especially knows, like, I didn't want to eat. That I didn't leave that VC for 3 weeks straight because I couldn't eat anything. I didn't want to sleep. Like, I was in a really bad place. And I think that was also part of what influenced my decision when he did end up asking, is because I was exhausted. I hadn't been sleeping. I hadn't been eating properly. There was stuff going on with my parents. My parents split literally the day after I split with Connor. So it was kind of like a lot of tension going on at the same time. Like, I remember the day, like, literally the day after Connor and I split, I ended up having to call him because it just happened to work out that nobody else was around, and I didn't know who else to call because my parents were having an argument and there were firearms and whatnot involved, and I couldn't process. I didn't have anybody else to go to. And just, like, there was so much going on in that month. Finally moving out was such a relief. Like, I know the boys can say that both dropping Connor and moving out and even just being in a healthy relationship now has kind of changed how I am. I see it even in myself. A lot of people are like, what the fuck happened? Like, you're dressing different, you're talking different, you're acting different, like, but I feel more like me. Like, with Connor, I felt like I had to be a specific person. It was very much, again, that trophy mentality. I had to present a certain way. I had to follow a certain set of behavior. And it wasn't in terms of, like, a lot of people go, oh, you were just, like, in a dynamic, right? Like, you were just, like, a submissive, you were in a dynamic. No, it really wasn't, because when it came to that kind of stuff, it was actually quite the opposite. But then there was a lot of stuff that went on with that I will get into after break, but I want to give a forewarning to that for people who have situations. But, like,
the one thing I'm gonna say before we end up taking a break is me being the dinosaur that I am. I've been here for a fucking while. To give some context, me and I currently have a 226-day streak on Snap, and that's not even what it could have been. But she's more turning back to the person from when I first entered Ice Life and had the privilege of getting to know her. She's just turning back to more herself, the person I got to experience at the start. And for me, that's just a joy to see that she's becoming again more the person she was, being more secure in herself, more starting to believe in herself, and actually saying, hey, this is right and this is wrong, and just coming from somebody who also deals himself with major mental health issues. I think actually coping and saying, hey, I realize now this was a bad thing, and starting the healing process, saying, hey, okay, we've come to a point now, and this is also why we're doing this, is to start and get the fun, like, healing done with all, like, getting it all out in the open, so she doesn't sit there questioning, because as much as all of us within our tight group can say to her, saying, hey, you did absolutely nothing wrong, making that conclusion for yourself and actually believing that person, saying, hey, I was actually not the issue at hand, I was just exposed to somebody who was both, I'm gonna go both physical and mental abusing. And you might think, how can this be physical abuse when, again, it has been a long distance thing? It can't, just the sheer fact, like I said, you've gotten to a point where you weren't eating, you weren't sleeping, and in my book that still counts as physical, because the amount of emotional shit you brought into it, and manipulation, and making her question every decision she made. it gotten to a point where we could just be talking about stuff we normally did, and she would ask, saying, "Hey, have I done anything wrong with this?" And no, we're just talking and questioning like basic things like she never questioned to me before. It's like, and when I finally also got clued in, because I had a lot going on, I was like saying, "What happens? Just this is not your fault by any means necessary." And yeah, so it's just like seeing her go back is for me just a personal thing that I really love seeing, because she's just turning back to the person I've always been saying to, "Hey, you are this person, you are capable of doing these things." And when she got free of that toxic asshole, just a very polite way of saying it, and just got a little bit of distance from everything, and it's just a joy to see how like she's progressing and believing in herself and all the positive changes she is making to make sure, like, first of all, she'll never experience anything like this again, and make damn sure it doesn't happen to anything else or anyone else. Just like, it's amazing for me to see like how far she's come. Just like I think like she moved out, she dumped Connor and just got a little distant, started believing herself more and started doing the things she enjoyed doing again. Not to please him or anyone else, but things she actually herself enjoyed doing.
I
Okay.
think we're gonna take a break.
Yo, hit the feel stick, man. That means
Yeah,
that.
and after she did that, I think it's not an understatement to say that she helped all of us become better people.
That's not an understatement. You hit your head on the fucking nail right there. We're gonna bring out the field stick a little bit, because as much as you don't see it and still sometimes bring it up, I'm not gonna go into details, but you posted a message on the group chat like yesterday saying this is what makes you think you're making different. You are, whether or not you're actually able to see it, but you are making such a huge difference. Again, just with the server, with the stream, just letting first of all people know they're not alone. You share experience again, just to make people feel they're not alone. All of us, I can say without doubt, feel like you have changed our lives definitely for the better, and you helped us through some of our darkest times. And nobody asked you to do it. You did it out of the kindness of your heart, because that's something you want to do, because after all that you experience, as you said to me, you still care. You still want to make sure nobody's feeling this way again. As much as you try to give me, and I say try to give me praise for it, I won't accept it, but as much as you try, it's also worth still saying to you, you're doing the exact same. You're just focusing on not making it, but I feel like you're also seeing the lives you touch. Like, again, you're making people that doesn't have a home feel included, make sure they feel safe.
See,
And just, yeah.
the more like doing therapy and like working through it, a lot of it is there's a lot of internalized imposter syndrome and just a lot of his gaslighting. Like, they don't actually need you, like you're doing more harm than good, like you're just giving them a crutch, like they're never going to be able to function on their own. They're like, why are you even bothering? Like, it's clearly stressing you out. Why are you bothering? Pretending like he cared. Like, you're only hurting yourself. Like, why the fuck do you care about them? They're clearly hurting you. Like, why are you... It's really hard to look at it. Like, if you look back, I talk about it even, like my old account, like I talk about being really upset this year, how I don't have the funds or the ability, and I don't have contact with all those people that we helped last year. Like, I know I did a good thing with that, and that was prior to Connor's influence, because I had the ability to do that, and and I know I touched those lives, and I gave those people, they were able to have a Christmas despite COVID. They were able to, their kids, so many messages from all these parents that were low income that didn't have the ability, and all the people that came out and supported, either from my community or my boss caught wind of it, and she was so helpful donating. So she's like, what do you need? We're going to go out and buy it, and we're going to pay to ship it and stuff. And all these lives that we touched, these like I said, these parents saying the kids were so happy. Like, you don't know what it means for the kids to be able to, because no kid should have to do to have to hear from their parents, and no parent should have to tell their kid, I'm sorry, like, I can't give you anything for Christmas. Or to all the college students that were stuck in dorms because of COVID, they couldn't go home, or stuck in a different state and they couldn't go home. Or even just relatives that couldn't, like families, that kids that had moved out to a different state for jobs, they're in their late 20s, mid 20s, and they couldn't go home. Or elderly people, like people had wrote in and DM'd me and said, hey, like my grandparents live up north, like I can't go see them, they're going to be by themselves for Christmas, can you help me send them something? And again, like low income families putting together mini food hampers of like canned food and like stuffing mix and things like that, so they had the ability to have something for the holiday season. All those lives, and not knowing like what happened to them, anything like that. That was the biggest blow with losing the account, is all those people that were, I knew I did good. I knew that what the community was helping them. It gave them a safe space. It gave them a space where they could come and talk, and they felt heard, and they felt valid, and they felt listened to. And he kind of took that feeling of doing good away. Like, the way he just twisted it into, oh, you're making this pit where everybody's just upset all the time, and everybody's just whining and complaining, and nobody's getting solved. You're not a therapist. You're not going to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. No, I'm not a therapist, but at least I can do is offer a safe place. And I'm slowly getting to a point where, like, I can acknowledge, like, I know I've helped you guys. Deep down, I know I've helped you guys. But again, it's that gaslighting, that imposter syndrome. Well, what if I really haven't done that much? Like, I really haven't done anything. Like, I'm just one person. Like, all I did was, like, talk to you. Like, kind of fighting that internalized issue with its, I'm not, like, internalized imposter syndrome. Like, I didn't really do anything. And this whole thing with Zach is not going to help, because I'm going to be honest with you guys. The furthest I'm going to go into it is I'm really feeling the guilt of that, because I always preach this is a safe space, and I want it to be a safe space, and well, clearly it wasn't. So now going out of my way to make it feel like it's a home again, and make sure that people feel safe here, and people feel like it's a home, and people feel like they have somewhere to go. And he went out of his way to try and alienate me from that even. And if you look at some of the content I made, it very much strayed. Even now, it's not quite the content that I used to make. It used to be a lot towards like helping people and gathering a community and mental health wise. And I'm trying to slowly go back to that. And I've always tried to be open and honest with you guys, like, this is what's going on. And this has kind of been a hard thing to keep to myself, but it's also, I needed to be, even now, I'm still emotional about it, obviously, but I'm not having angry outbursts. I'm to a point where I can have a conversation about it. And you guys deserve to have some idea of what happened, because like I said, there were a lot of DMs, there were a lot of questions, and people were trying very hard to be respectful, but like, what happened? Like, all of a sudden it's not friendly anymore. And we'll get a little bit more into that, but it was a lot. And like you guys said, he was very, very territorial. If you guys followed my old account, you will have seen the TikTok that he posted. He posted a few on my account, but there was one specifically, like, I'm not jealous, I'm territorial, I'm protecting what is mine. And it was very aggressive, and it would send a very clear message. And that kind of helped drive a lot of people away, and kind of more on emotional and psychologically manipulative standpoint. Like, he acknowledged that there were bonds between me and certain people that were stronger. Like, he acknowledged Giggles was one of the people I was closest with. At this point, he acknowledged that Matt was becoming kind of a father figure to me. Matt was the dad that I didn't really have. I didn't have a dad that was overly present in my life. When I needed something, Matt was the one that I went to. And Matt was the one that I trusted to have my back and things like this. And just being older and having the experience in relationships and in relationships online and knowing dynamics and things like that, Matt was someone that I often went to. And him systematically going out of his way to try and push those two out of their lives and turn them against me or turn them against him, and try to show me, like, hey, look, they're just bullying me. Like, they don't really care about you. If they cared about you, they'd support us, and they would try and help us. In reality, that's all Matt wanted to do. Matt fought and tried so hard to show him, like, all she really wants you to do is this simple thing. And like he said, he would do it for 2 weeks and then he would stop. And he wasn't really doing it to do it. He was doing it to appease. He's like, here, look, I can do it. See, you can stay with me. Like, I can do it. I can promise I can do it. And then after 2 weeks, it would just kind of slowly fade out to nothing again. And the kind of two big selling points for me that kind of cemented the idea of leaving him. Because mind you, that's not long after we were engaged that things kind of changed. But I had a hard time telling Giggles what exactly happened. Like, I didn't, and I told Matt, I talked to Matt about that, and Matt just said, you have to tell him. I can't do that for you. You have to tell him. And that kind of, because at that point, Connor knew, that was also helped deteriorate the relationship. That was in April. I sat him down, because that was still, again, in the upstairs room. I sat him down and said, hey, look, you know I'm poly. You know it's possible for me to develop feelings for other people. I have feelings for Giggles. I'm choosing not to act upon them. Like, out of respect for the relationship, I know you don't want poly again. You and Sketchy kind of fucking ruined poly for me in the way that you acted, in the way that you behaved. Like, I have no interest in doing that again. And out of respect for you, like, which kind of led to a lot of the problems. And Giggles even said that, like, I'm not, like, dude, she's yours. Like, I'm not encroaching on your territory. Like, she's my best friend. All I want to do is be able to game and hang out with my best friend. That's all I want. And that's what everybody said. And that, like I said, that was made very clear to him. Like, you are my priority. Our relationship is my priority. Like, I'm not trying to undermine that in any way. And like I said, it's just slowly declined. And that was what led to him pushing and pushing and pushing against Matt and pushing against Giggles and trying to get them out. But like I said, a huge like thing for me was when I had to tell him and I didn't know how. Like, I really struggled with that because it didn't feel right. And obviously now I know why it didn't feel right, but it didn't feel right. Like, I knew it was going to hurt him and I didn't want to do that. And I knew subsequently it was hurting me to do that. But I did eventually. And then it ended up, start of May, because I was back downstairs. Connor made the decision.
End of May, we were downstairs again.
Was it end of May?
Mid-May, end of May.
Yeah. Well, it was once I had moved back downstairs. Giggles and Connor were having a separate conversation, and Giggles was attempting to back out of my life because he didn't know another way to be respectful to what Connor... He was trying to abide by what Connor wanted and respect Connor, despite, at that point, I don't think you or Matt had much respect left for him. But you were also trying to do it for me because you knew that it was kind of a mutual thing. You didn't know what else to do. And having that conversation, and the fact that Connor never had the decency to wake me up and say, this is what's going on, like, you need to be aware of this because of the severity of the situation, which I'm not, again, going to go fully into, but the severity of the situation, the fact that I wasn't looped into it, the only reason I knew about it is because I woke up, and the look on his face was just pure guilt once he read me into the situation, and just kind of realizing what exactly was going on. And like, when I didn't bother, and I said this to Matt, and I said this to Giz, I didn't bother muting or camming down with Connor because I didn't care at that point. And that was kind of that was what kind of tipped my decision towards where I was going. The fact that someone who was so important in my life, and is important in my life, we're at this point and you can't even be bothered to wake me up and at least fill me in on what's going on when you know it's something so important like that. That to me tells me you don't have my best interest at heart, that you have an ulterior motive. And that was kind of where it clicked. Like, I'm not his number one priority. His reputation and how I can better his reputation was his priority. And he kind of saw why my loyalties were where they were. And I say this a lot. I say the smartest thing that man ever did is he didn't make me choose. Because I think if he ever pushed me to that point, it would have not gone over as well as it did. I mean, inevitably it didn't go over that well. But things definitely would have been different. There would have been a lot more repercussions, and things would have probably been a lot worse. But it was definitely, those two things were a huge turning point. It kind of like opened my eyes to where he stood and how he was actually conducting himself, and kind of seeing his motives. And like I said, a lot of that stuff didn't come out till after the relationship. Like I said, seeing how many people that I lost touch with, not just in the server, not just through social media connected, but also in my real life. Like, I didn't go outside. I didn't go for drinks with the boys. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I didn't do anymore. I recently started going back and getting coffee with, like, my high school buddies. And, like, going out for drives at night with the boys and going racing down. Like, that was stuff I used to do all the time. Growing up as a backwoods kid, like, we used to go out and race the cars every Friday night down the grid roads. And we used to go have bonfires and stuff. I stopped going to all that. And just kind of realizing how far the manipulation went again, and like not realizing, because he did it so subtly, it didn't, and the way he knew to pull, like, if you know me, you know I'm a very sympathetic, very empathetic person, and I'm willing to give a lot more before I ask in return, and oftentimes I don't ask in return. And that's kind of where he got me, was I need you now, like, you should be paying attention to me. Like, I'm going through a lot. Like, I'm struggling. Like, and it was never, nobody else mattered on his radar. But in the mindset that I was in, like, he was my partner. That's where my loyalty should be. That's where my first priority should be. Like, I should be taking care of him. He needs me. I need to go. And I said that a lot to the boys. Like, I need to go. Connor needs me. Like, and it was a lot of, like, we'd plan a game night with the boys and then kind of be like, yeah, no, I don't feel like playing. Like, we're not going to game tonight. It's like, I don't feel like gaming. And I was like, oh, like, what's wrong? Like, are you just tired? He's like, no, like, I just had a really shit day, and everybody at work was really mean to me, and, like, I kind of just want to smoke, and I kind of want to, like, hurt myself. And it's like, okay, guys, I need to go. And, like, kind of holding that over my head now to that point. Some of them I genuinely believed, like, he had bad days, but it also kind of coincided with who was in the chat, who was on that day, and kind of who was involved with it. The more I got, like, when it was his boys, oh yeah, he'd be there. When it was my boys, no. Like, I don't feel like it. Like, I'm not feeling well. Like, we need to take the night off. Like, when's the last time we had date night? Like, things like that. But the second his boys were like, hey, like, y'all want to play GTA? You guys want to play, like, Borderlands, like, come on, let's go play. And it's like, that's convenient. How? And especially, like, I didn't notice it so much back then. It was like, yay, I get the chance to play a game with people, and people who actually want me there. Like, the boys, I can't stress that enough. Both boys, my boys and his boys, were more than welcoming. Like, come play with us. Like, they didn't, yeah, the New Zealand boys made fun of me here and there. And they joked about, oh, if you drive like that in real life, you'll never stay on the road. And they're like, but that's just banter, the same banter that the boys have amongst themselves. Like, I felt like one of the boys, and I felt like I belonged. They never treated me any different because I was from Canada. They never treated me any different because I was his girlfriend. They were some of the few people, like, treated me normal. And it was nice to be, like, I belonged. There were some cases in my server where it was because I was a server owner, they treated me different, or they were extra nice to me, or they let me win games, or things like that. Whereas with the boys, they're like, you lost, tough shit, do better next time. Like, they weren't assholes about it, but they're like, we're not gonna go easy on you because you're a girl. We're not gonna go easy on you because you have followers. We're not gonna go easy on, like, I was just one of the group, and that was nice. And there were cases where Connor was like, very, very much like, again, my girlfriend plays video games with me. Like, my girlfriend's a gamer girl. Like, very much like that was a bragging point for him. Because the rest of them, like, some of them had girlfriends, some of them didn't. But, like, the rest of their girlfriends, they just wanted to sit in their home and watch soaps. So it was like, that's fine. Like, everyone to their own. But, like, it was a huge bragging point for him. Like, my girlfriend plays video games. And it was just, yeah. I don't know. But we're going to take a break. We all need a break. And I suspect that you guys need a break. So we are going to take a 10-minute break. Go get some water. Go get a snack. Go stretch your legs, clear your head. Go scroll through some fucking TikTok. 10 minutes. We'll be back. Or just enjoy the clips that are going to come up on the screen. But yeah. We will be back. Make it something. Okay. Hopefully that worked. Yeah, it did. Okay. Took everything back where it should be.
Well, if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna go to bed. I don't have quite enough mental stamina for this.
That's okay.
That's all right.
Yeah. Good night.
Good night.
Good.
Good night.
Ominous music. Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Just hear the minions doing that in the back of my head.
You're okay.
I know. Welcome back, everybody. I don't know if it's a good welcome back, but welcome back those of you who are still here. We are going to continue, but like I did post in chat, potential trigger warning, because this will move into territory that might be sensitive topic for certain individuals. So just be forewarned of that. If you feel uncomfortable at any point, feel free to mute the stream, leave the stream. I totally understand. I said, I went through it. Y'all don't need to go through it secondhand through me. That ain't fair. So, yeah.
Your discretion is advised.
That
This
was
is
the
how I feel
most
when I'm
creepy,
controlled.
soothing movie theater voice I've ever heard.
That's how
Oh my.
I feel. See before we get back into it, that fucking username chicken wing just makes me think of the fucking TikTok audio. Chicken wing,
hot dog and
bologna.
bologna.
I'm old.
We know.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Night, Dumpling. Thank you for sticking around. I hope you have a good night. I don't know what we were talking about before we went on break. But I don't know how open I was with you guys about what went on behind closed doors.
Not much.
No. I mean, you really kept that on the down low, at least towards me, because you know
You
what
mentioned
the intention are on that.
you mentioned one thing once. But it was very back of the hand. We'll move on from this subject very quickly.
Yeah. Well, I know, and since circumstances have changed, you've become more privy to things, obviously, because as it affects our relationship, you need to know about how things have come to transpire in the past. But there was a lot of that went on behind closed doors within the sexual aspects of our relationship. And one thing that, while commenting on like the change between myself, like with content and like how I compose myself and stuff like that, like there was a lot more, like I think in private there was a lot less careful, I guess would be the right word. Like there was a lot more disregard for like changing in chat and stuff. There was a lot less disregard for that. Now it's more there's very like you guys, and even then it's like my back turned like type thing. Whereas before it was like I don't give a shit type thing, and the more I guess more respect and more, I don't know how to word it, but like you know what I'm getting at. like I care more now, and like there's a, like before it was like a possession, like I was a extension of him, so it was like how I conducted myself was different. Because that's one thing that people notice, like even if you look at my Instagram feed, like how things have changed and the confidence and like expressing myself, and like I don't think I post exceptionally questionable things, but I do post some things that are more, or less conservative, if you will, but not, I don't think, over the top. But I never would have posted the lecture I would have gotten. That one picture that I posted that kind of broke my Instagram for a while, and it wasn't even that bad. I kid you not, a 2-hour lecture about how that was disrespectful and how my body was his and it was only his and nobody else was supposed to see that, and that was supposed to be for us, and that was supposed to be like, it was very, like you said, very possessive, very controlling, very like, this is mine, nobody else's type mentality, which there is respect within a relationship, but it's also my body, it's also, but at the same time he was like, oh, can you send, and like, I want to show my friends, like I want to brag about this, and it's like, no, that's not how this works. If I do choose to send you stuff, it is for you, it isn't for anybody else. Like, that's what it's intended for. And he never truly got what he wanted, because I didn't, that's one thing I'm glad that I never went to that extent, because I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't trust him. And like, especially after it got back to me through Kiwi, like, he never showed Kiwi anything, but he bragged about it. Like, oh, my girlfriend's so hot, like, my girlfriend does this, my girlfriend does that, my, like, same type thing as he did with my girlfriend's a gamer girl. And just, there was a lot of pressure. And when back in October, when I posted that TikTok, when that trend was going around talking about stuff, that, about like things that were said and how being pressured into things doesn't always look like it's like abuse and whatnot, isn't necessarily always physical in terms of like forcefully. It's also manipulation, it's also, and like some of the things he would say, like, oh yeah, you want to go to bed, just like take your shirt off and go to bed. I'm like, coming with that, like when I was on call with you, it was, where is he positioned, where is his camera, where is, as if I was intentionally trying to, right? And just little things like that. Or like when I was hanging out you will have noticed it, and I've slowly started doing it again now, but again, there's a certain group of people I'm comfortable with at this point, because now I feel, now that it's starting to dawn on me more and more how he conducted himself and how a lot of it wasn't intentional, it like on my behalf, and it was how he did it was with the intent of me feeling like it was my idea, or feeling like I had to, or feeling obligated. It kind of is like, oh, well, now I feel violated. Like now that I see why he was doing it and how he was doing it, and hear these things out of other people, like out of his friends saying, hey, like this is why he did this, or this is why he wanted you, or this and that, and like you were just a bragging point and things like that. It like now I'm more conscious. But like, Matt, you can remember back in the days where I just used to wear a sports bra around in the 18 plus chat.
Yeah.
Because I felt comfortable and I was dressed appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at least how you dressed you become more self-aware, because especially after that whole incident with Connor.
Came to a certain, sorry. No, it came to a certain point where we were noticing that you were only wearing hoodies.
Yeah. Like, I think that's the thing. like I noticed, but I didn't really question it because you and I have had a few talks about body image on both on my behalf and on yours. So I noticed it, but for me it didn't seem. But looking back, I know why, and now see this is why you did it. And of course, I was not privy to all of it, and if I was, like and Gilton, there would be a heavily different outcome because I'm gonna refrain myself from going into a whole rant about what consent is and how your in this case, just to put blank, your own sexual desires does not mean that your partner has a right to fulfill them. That's not their burden. It's not their thing.
Yeah.
You shouldn't expect that. That's on you. So coercing people, and here's the thing: coerce consent to manipulation. It's not consent. That puts you in a whole different category. And that's all I'm gonna say for that because otherwise I'm gonna go on a 2-hour rant about consent, and nobody wants that.
Yeah. Well, like Giggle said about the hoodies became, it became a loophole because some of the hoodies were like just barely long enough, but they became a loophole because he was satisfied enough by that he didn't bug. It was something that I could still feel mostly comfortable in, and I didn't have an issue with. Like, I was able to. And oftentimes I'd be wearing my booty shorts underneath, so it wasn't a concern at all. And just even, like I said, on some of my TikToks, where they were just intended to be wholesome things, or I would tag him in something, and he would turn it inherently sexual when it wasn't. And then he'd turn around and get mad. Like, I had posted one. It was one of Howdy Howdy's audios. I wish I could find the audio again because I really like that audio. Thinking about, oh, it's such a shame, like, it's a rainy day. Wouldn't it be too bad if somebody came and took me on a rainy day date and whatnot? And Giggles had made a comment about how, like, could make it better and stuff, and he got really mad about that. And he actually went off on a few people in my chat. Back when he had access to the old account. A lot of people commented and then like, hey, you deleted my comment, or hey, you left a really snarky comment, and I'd have to go back through and be like, no, I didn't. I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't do that. And things like very, again, goes back to the whole very controlling, very possessive. But like, I'm going back to like that video posted, like saying things like, oh, your body's just too beautiful to waste, or like, you're my fiance, that's what you're supposed to do, like, this is part of it that comes with it. Or again, like, oh, you can go to bed, just take your shirt off, like, things like that. Or like, this is something I don't want to bring Giggles and I's relationship into too much, but this is one thing that I pointed out to Giggles that really kind of struck home, that was like a big difference for me, is it didn't matter what the situation was, whether it was something that was supposed to be inherently, like, whether it was lingerie or whether it was like just a cute dress or something. The first thing that has always come out of Giggles' mouth is, you're gorgeous. That has always been what's come out of his mouth first. With Connor, it was, you're sexy, you're hot. And that was 90% of the compliments that came out of his face, whether something was, again, inherently sexual, like lingerie, or if it was just decided I wanted to wear a skirt to work. Be honest, it's why I didn't wear a lot of skirts. I didn't feel comfortable. I wore shorts a lot, and hoodies, and my jeans, and whatnot. And just, like I said, taking things that was, and making things that even where I was comfortable being myself, like when I was working on trucks, or when I was working on Old Blue, it wasn't like I was smart, it wasn't that I was handy, it wasn't that I was capable, it's no, you're sexy, you're so hot. And it's like, yeah, it's nice to be complimented, but when you're constantly hearing things like that, it's like, am I worth anything? And the entire course of the relationship, am I worth anything else to you? Or is this all I am? Am I, again, going back to that trophy mentality, am I just this hot gamer girlfriend that can do all these things that you get to show off to your friends, and not get to put any work in. Like, is that all this is? Because that's really what it was starting to feel like. And it's again, like, saying, like, hey, like, this makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm sorry, I won't do it. And then 2 weeks later, it's an issue again and I have to bring it up. Or, like, just the sheer asking for basic communication. Like, hey, if you're going to be late, like, if we had plans and you're going to be late, just, like, text me, be like, hey, I'm staying late at work or whatever. Like, we're not going to be able to hang out tonight because of the time zone difference. Like, just go to bed. Like, I'll see you. Because it got to a point where I was staying up till 3, 4 in the morning to be able to talk to him. And he'd be just getting home. And he'd be like, why the fuck are you still awake? Why the fuck didn't you go to bed? And it's like, well, I was worried because you didn't say anything. And you didn't come home. And some nights, like, he would just hop on with Matt and not think anything of it. And which at first I was like, okay, like, you didn't think anything of it, whatever. But when it became a recurring thing, it's like, hey, like, what exactly is going on? And then it started being he would deliberately turn his Discord status off. So I didn't know he was online. And just things like that. And it's like, all I need for you is to communicate. I'm not asking for the world. I'm not asking to know every single little detail of your life. It's just if we have plans, or like when we're gonna fall asleep on call together at night, which we did every night, like, I just want to text, like, hey, I'm gonna hang out with Matt as soon as I get home, or hey, I'm not coming home, or like just something so I don't stay up. And then, because if I'm staying up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I have to be up at 6 the next morning. And especially once Daisy got sick, fuck, he was less than useless when Daisy got sick. Couldn't give a shit. I had to be up at 5:30 every morning so I could give her pills and make sure and up 3 or 4 times throughout the night to make sure she was going up the bathroom and carrying her up the stairs. It's a 180-pound dog, carrying her up the stairs because she couldn't. She was old. She was dying. She couldn't. And when that happened, was nowhere to be found. Like, when I needed somebody, it was Giggles, it was Matt, it was the house group that I went to said, hey, like, this is what's going on. And I sent a message. I had posted on Instagram and I had sent out a message in the Discord. I said, hey, I'm gonna be withdrawing for a little bit, like, this is what's going on, like, I can't right now, like, I have a lot to process, this is what's going on. And then shortly after, Daisy got sick and was going downhill, and we got her diagnosis and they gave her a month to live. We ended up having to take Felix in, who is a 15-year-old cat that has been there. I'm 20 years old, you do the math. Been there. We had him since he was a kitten, since he was born. Like, and he got diagnosed. He's got issues. He's got to take pills. Daisy passed away end of August, start of September. We had to put her down. But Felix, we still have Felix, but like, there was no support. Daisy was diagnosed in March. Connor and I didn't split till May 30th, and there was no support whatsoever, no compassion. Well, where the fuck are you? Why aren't you hanging out with us? Why aren't you, like, you said you'd be here at 7:30. It's 7:42. What the fuck were you doing? I had to take the dog outside. I had to feed the dog. I had to give the dog her pills. I had to make sure that she's okay. Like, you're not my priority right now. My fucking dog is dying. That is my priority right now, and no compassion for that whatsoever. And like, before Daisy had moved into the house, because we hadn't ended up getting a chance to move her in until about a week after she got diagnosed. Just because due to weather and stuff, we wanted to make sure it was a good time for her to come in where she wouldn't get sick due to she wouldn't get acclimation sickness because of the change in climate. Going from, we get Canadian winters here, it's cold. Going in and out is going to make her sick. So we wanted to make sure she's okay. But the one night, Diesel stopped breathing. And I went into a full-on panic attack because, well, my cat stopped breathing for no reason. And given what Daisy had just been diagnosed with, I was a little bit of an emotional wreck. I'll admit it. But I think rightly so. And he proceeded to scream at me because I left the camera frame to where the cat was at the foot of the bed. And obviously, Diesel is fine. I don't know what happened, but Diesel is fine. But just the lack of compassion when it came to things like that. And that it was my fault. Like, it was my fault that he was upset with me. It was my fault because I was disrespecting him, that I wasn't available. Like, I was the one breaking promises because I said I'd be there at a certain time, and I wasn't. And I was the one who wasn't keeping my word, and I was the one who was untrustworthy. And just... it's just a lot. And especially, like, dealing with my medical problems and whatnot. I give him that. He, whether it was genuine concern or not, when I had episodes, he stopped what he was doing. He'd get frustrated eventually and pretend like he didn't hear it or he didn't see it. But he would, for the most part, when I had an episode, he was there and he was, "Are you okay? Like, just stop, just breathe, whatever." But, yeah, it was a lot. And it was, like I said, just the lack of compassion and understanding. And just being able to process that something else needed my attention, and that I had to justify giving something else my attention, or someone else my attention, or he'd get frustrated. I mean, granted, you guys know damn well I'd get frustrated when every 30 seconds I was getting pulled off to do something. When I was told, like, "You're done this, you can go hang out, or you can go do this." Or like, and now, given, again, I'm not going to go into great detail what was going on with my parents, but now that I understand fully what happened there, I understand why my mother was the way that she was. And I cut her a little bit of slack for that. It wasn't necessarily okay what she did, but I understand where she was coming from and why she was stressed the way she was and everything. Given her and I were in very similar situations, except she was living with the man. It was just a lot. And that's why she was so hard. She needed me to help keep things going, which now I see that. I didn't see it that way. But it was also just extremely frustrating to every day have to do 2 to 3 hours worth of dishes, which realistically shouldn't have been happening. It should have been maybe like 10-15 minutes worth of dishes a day, if that, if I was doing them every day, not 2 to 3 hours. And it's like dealing with emergencies and dealing with my parents' shit and just a lot of things. And he's like, "Oh, you just don't care." And like, "You're always on time for the boys." Well, no, I'm not, actually. A lot of times I end up leaving the boys. And like, I know Kiwi used to get frustrated about that, but he came to, like, as soon as he overheard, well, you guys have overheard some of what went on in the household. And it's like just understanding, and he never really had that level of understanding. At the start, he was like, "Oh, like, they shouldn't treat you like that, like, I'm sorry," like that. And then it slowly turned into, "Well, my parents hate me and they favor my younger brother and this and that, and like, they never do anything for me. Oh, they pay your rent, they let you live there for free, they'll bail your ass out anytime. Your whole philosophy with money was, oh, if I can't pay it, mom and dad will pay it." Like, it wasn't, not to like invalidate anything, because there were some instances where his brother was favored over him, but there were also a lot of instances where he was favored over his brother. Like, his brother missed out on a couple things for his grad because Connor fucked up and needed them to come bail him out. Like, it was give and take on both sides. Like I said, not to invalidate his experience, but there was give and take on both sides. And like, that side, now to circle back to like the finance thing, the biggest thing that him and I fought a lot on finances, simply because I come from a lower income household. I know what it's like to dumpster dive. I know what it's like to buy secondhand because you have to. I know what it's like. We paid our mortgage. If you're from Canada, I don't know if you guys recycle in the United States, but we get a deposit on our cans and bottles, and if you return them, you get the deposit back. We paid mortgage on cans and bottles. Like, we would go out and pick cans and bottles out of the ditch for hours to be able to pay the mortgage, to keep a roof over our head, to keep the power on. And, like, power got turned off after a certain hour. Or during the day, you didn't have any lights on. Like, even the basement, you didn't have lights on during the day because you couldn't afford it, type thing. And, like, the thermostat never went above 18 because we couldn't afford the heat bill, type thing. So, yeah, I'm tight on money. And even now, it's like, Matt yells at me all the time because I don't spend money on myself. And I only spend money on what I need. But that was something him and I argued about. And he's like, oh, I'll just put it on lay-by. Like, I'll just finance it. It's fine. I'll just finance it. But you keep financing stuff and eventually you end up in debt. And given I saw him as a potential life partner, like, I genuinely was planning a life with him and thought we were planning a life. Apparently that he only wanted a life with me as long as I was putting out and I was offering gains in one way or another. Be it popularity, be it aiding with his content, be it anything like that. But, like, given I saw him as a life partner, I didn't want somebody who was constantly financing things and, like, impulse buying and spending money, because then we have no savings. Then we have no stuff. And I was like, well, if we're serious about this, if you're serious about this, well, then I'm just going to have a whole separate bank account, because I can't trust you not to dip into it to just because you want to buy something. And then that led to a whole nother argument. And he's like, fine, I'm going to learn how to budget then. And you're going to help me. And it's like, okay, I'm more than happy to help you learn how to budget. And that led to the whole argument with Matt, because he wouldn't listen to me. And I was like, look, if you don't want to listen to me, go talk to Matt. Matt knows what the fuck he's talking about. Matt will help you. And Matt was more than willing to help. The entire time, Matt was more than willing to help. The friend group was more than generous in trying to explain to him where he messed up and why he needed to fix it and kind of what was going on. They're a lot more involved than they probably should have been, but at the same time, kind of glad you guys were, because if you hadn't been as involved, it would have been probably a lot worse. And just, like, things like that. And, like, the number one reason, like, is what people are probably, well, what people were wondering, and what most likely are still wondering, why he got dismissed from my community, is because it came out, one of his friends let it slip, that the reason why he initially reached out is because of the clout, because of the following I had on TikTok, because he has had a goal of making a career out of social media, which is a reasonable goal, right? But he wasn't getting what he wanted and how he wanted it, and wasn't growing at the rate that he needed, or didn't have the consistency to grow at the rate that he wanted and needed. And when I reached out, I was like, hey, I like your content, how are you doing? He took it as a sign, like, he was like, oh, okay, well, let's see where this goes, and ended up like, hey, I can use this to my advantage. And, like, she brings in viewers, she brings in content, like, her community likes me, her community's gonna come to my community. And I said, hey, Connor's streaming on Twitch, go check it out. Just like I like to support people in my community. I don't want to stop doing that just because people take advantage of me. Just like Connor and Zach did. Like, I don't want to stop offering you guys that opportunity because people are ruining it for you guys. Like, obviously, if it happens again, it's going to become, I'll still allow promotion and stuff, but it'll change how stuff gets done. But he really took advantage of what was given to him. Like, took advantage of the opportunity. Like, hey, I'm giving you this opportunity, I'm giving you this space. I want to help you grow just like I'm growing. Let's help each other grow, right? Like, here's my community, here's all these great streamers that are more than happy to help you. Like, we can all stream together, we can make content together, and kind of grow together and grow our accounts and grow our things like that. And that kind of never really happened. And like I said, the second I lost my following on TikTok, his entire demeanor changed. He had no interest in helping me try and get my account back. He had no interest in helping me get anything back. I remember I was on call with him and Zach and I think a couple other people when it went down. And he continued to scroll away on his TikTok. Did not care. Like, oh, it'll be fine. It'll be back up tomorrow. Something along those lines is what he said. And just no attempt, no post on his account like, hey, go follow her new account. Like, no, hey, can you write an email on her behalf? Like, no, nothing. My community was super, like, the Discord was like, hey, like, give me an address, I'll send an email. Give me an address, I'll send an email. And, like, those of them that had followings, even some of them that didn't have followings, they only had, like, 10 followers. They still posted. They're like, hey, this is her new @ go follow her, she looks familiar. And, like, Giggles, you let me use your account. You're like, post whichever you need. Because we had a lot of mutual followers at that point. And just couldn't care less about any part of it. And that was like a really stressful part of just life, because Daisy had just been diagnosed and then I lost that account, and that was a source of income for me. Like, that was most of my brand deals came from that TikTok account. I had income that was coming out of I have shit on fire in my room. I have shit on fire in my room.
I'm just hoping that's the candle and you're not lit fire or anything.
It was an incense stick that was in a candle jar that somehow managed to catch fire. They weren't connected at all. But, like, brain fart, gone, thought process.
I think what you're trying to get us, like, is on what he did. He took advantage of things that was offered, and then he proceeded to take a whole lot more and just expected more. Like, when all said is done, and we can beat about the bush a little bit about that, but he saw you as one thing. He saw you as an opportunity to use you to further his own goal and for his own needs and desires. I can still sit here and question, honestly, how much he actually cared and how much was just for show. Because at some point, I don't doubt he actually cared, but for how long that lasted. And because it's clear that as soon as you lost your account, and like you said, he stopped caring because in his book, you were of no use to him, because again, you couldn't provide the clout that you did before, and he couldn't brag about saying, hey, my girlfriend is a successful streamer who has 27,000 followers on this platform, and all thing, and just the sheer things he did in the way of just manipulation and expecting and making it seem like you were the issue, to just again keep you in a position where he could control you, because what he was controlling. Just saying, hey, if you do this and if you try to act up for yourself, he would manipulate you into thinking you did something wrong, or you were in the wrong, or like, that whole thing. Yeah,
it was, like I said, it was impossible to, even when it wasn't something like related to his behavior, it was just a matter of like, as soon as I had a bad day, his world was falling apart. It's like, oh, you had a bad day, well, what about me? Like, was basically the exact attitude of what was happening. And like, I will honestly say there was one day where it felt like he cared. It was on a weekend. It was Friday night and all day Saturday. My parents were gone for the weekend. I did not leave the bed Saturday at all. And he sat on call. He did not game. He did not anything sit on his phone. He just sat and he actually talked to me. And that was one of the few days that I actually felt heard. And I actually felt seen and I felt appreciated because and it wasn't an inherently sexual conversation. It was just talk about some things, like joke, have a conversation as one would do in a relationship or even in a friendship. And I actually felt like an equal. I felt like something that actually mattered to him. And I think that might have been what played a part in stringing along so far. But that was prior to the month where I was mostly by myself. And the only reason I ate anything and made sure I was doing my schoolwork and like actually getting outside or doing anything was because of you guys. Because I didn't leave that BC. I didn't do anything for 3.5 weeks. I don't even know that we gamed that much. I just kind of mindlessly scrolled through TikTok.
You merely, and I say merely, just existed. You weren't living by any means. You were just simply existing and trying to escape the reality that was put or forced in front of you with everything. And
Yeah, it got to the point where you sent out messages to me and Matt that you were gonna stop everything for a while.
yeah, and it came just periodical where you just didn't do anything. Like you were merely there. You're just in bed, and on some good times where we managed to cheer you up, there was a bit more life in you. But then something hit, like a memory or something you associated with it, and then we understand, we tried, and to our best of our ability, you were never left unsupervised by one of us, out of because we're caring, but also out of sheer fear of what would happen if we left you unattended, because we wouldn't be knowing what was going on. And there was a whole lot of messages towards Isme and Giggles, and just saying, hey, I'm at work. Is there anybody who's like heard from you and seen you, or just
It
extended?
got also to the point where you were messaging me from, hey, I haven't heard from her. What's going on? Is she okay?
Yeah, and granted, in all of this, while all this is happening, I still do have a job that demands my presence for copious amount of hours, and I know you and me had this conversation. Like, it shouldn't be me or Giggles in that case that should do the checking up. Especially when you two are still together. Like saying, and I know we had this conversation many times. Like saying, I care for you to no end. I'm more than happy to help any way that I can. But a lot of things that you brought up to me, my first thought was, why are you not sharing this with Connor? And quickly I clued into, like, once you started talking about you having a bad day, he would just completely fucking almost go mental on you, because you were not allowed to have a bad day, because you were just essentially just not allowed to be human and express your feelings, because if you expressed your feeling, you didn't fit into his category of what you should be and who you should be. So, like, you always know, and there's never been doubt about that, you always know I'm only just a phone call away if there's anything you ever need. But a lot of things I also thought, like, this was something that was more meant to be resolved with somebody that claimed to love you and be in a relationship with you. Think I'm happy to help. I'm always happy to help, you know this. But still, my first thought was, if you're coming to me because you don't feel like you can trust your partner, there's something wrong. Because if he's going out of his way to, at least in my book, shame you for having a bad day and not being allowed to feel human, it's just like, and I said this multiple times, I also said this to the two of you, it ain't gonna be sunshine and rainbows. Nothing is. what really will define everything, whether it's relationship, friendship, whatever it is. Communicate. Especially if you're in a relationship, you owe it to each other. You two consenting parties that agree, saying, "Hey, we want to try and make this work." And sometimes it's just a matter of like saying, "Hey, today is a bad day." You don't have to go into detail, just letting the other person know. Especially if you're with somebody who has a tendency to overthink or be have anxiety, just think, "Hey, it's nothing you have done. It's just today has been rough because bad dream, bad memories, or something that happened." You don't have to rip up that bandage and saying, here's everything that's ever been wrong." No, you just communicate saying, "Hey, if I accidentally lash out or do something, it's not anything you did. It's just because this thing here that triggered me." And we all tend to be very understanding people when it comes to somebody who cares to me. Say, "Okay, if you need anything, let us know and we'll do." And like, you can ask us. The first thing I always say was, if there's something you need for me, when I can do, let me know. And I say the same to people like, "If there's something you need, I'll help to the best of my ability and give a fresh perspective." But it's not about just. It's an incredibly hard step to take to actually acknowledge, and it is also for me. I got better at it, but that took a lot of time and a lot of nights where eyes were screaming at me. But I mean, that is what that is. That's the way to get through to me. That sometimes just by screaming. But I have a thick skull, so that might be half the reason. But it's just the fact of communicating, saying, "Hey, I don't know what it is, but if I accidentally seem off or do something, it's not anything you did. Just saying, just communicate a little bit." I know we're in a society today where people are scared to talk to each other, and that's also why I have a firm belief that a lot of actually good relationships just go to waste because people are scared to talk to each other. Scared saying, "Hey, this is what's bothering me." First of all, it's okay not to be okay. And I had this conversation with giggles, like, especially when you're man, it's okay to actually admit, and we should really also strive to be the generation that ends the stigma about mental health issues, and especially also men's mental health issues, saying, "Hey, it's actually okay to reach out. It's not a sign of weakness," because actually asking and saying, "This is too much." Whatever it is, just go to somebody you trust and saying, "Hey, this is too much." And if it's actually people who deeply care about you or just care, they will do what they can to help.
See,
It's just like,
that's why I spent a lot of time with you guys, because like you said, I couldn't even like try to communicate, like, for reasons he should have known. Like, my dog I've had for 10 years is dying. Yeah, maybe I'm going to be a little bit upset about it. Or things like that. Or like, he knew something had gone wrong and proceeds to be like, "Oh, you should be totally fine." And then it got to a point where he was holding you guys over my head. Like, "Oh, you can take care of them. Like, you're always there when they fucking need you. Why aren't you there when I need you? Like, why can't you think of me for once? Why is it always them? And just, why do you spend so much time with them?" And the one day I snapped at him, I said, "I don't know, Connor. Why the fuck do you think I spend time with them? They actually listen to me. When I have a fucking bad day, I can go and sit with the doctor and they don't proceed to talk over me with how shitty their life is in comparison, and how I don't get to talk, and how my experience isn't valid, and how I don't get to feel like shit. Because I chose to do social media, and I chose all the burdens that go with that. And to an extent, I did. Like, yes, I chose to do social media. Yes, I understand there's going to be some things taxing. But I do have a right to talk about it, and I'm valid to talk about it, and I know that. And that was a thing that is really, I think, was really detrimental to my mental health. Was trying to open up and then being slammed back. And trying to open up and being slammed back. And I'm getting to a point now. Well, the other day I called you, Matt, because I can't. Like, I'm getting to a point where I am reverting back to I can reach out and say, hey, this isn't okay. Just like I used to do before Connor started getting, hey, like, what the fuck? Where I used to just send a message and I didn't necessarily have to explain myself. I would just say, hey, it's a bad fucking night. Is anybody around? Like, I don't need to necessarily talk, but I just need to be with somebody. Especially when you're in a household that isn't necessarily welcoming or loving and just kind of doesn't really recognize emotions or anything. And it was very much the same thing. Like, I'm stressed too. What the fuck are you complaining about? Type mentality. It was nice to have people that didn't ask you to justify it, didn't ask you to validate, just said, you're gonna be okay, we're just gonna sit, we're gonna vibe until you feel better. We can sit and talk, we can video game, we can whatever you want to do till you feel better, or until you fall asleep. We can just sit here. And like, he was never the one that was there. And oh, Matt.
What?
Read chat.
Do I want to?
Damien said, careful when randomly calling Matt, he might eat his phone.
Yep. Yeah. Here's the thing.
That was funny.
Yeah, I see that how it would be from your point of view, but with the amount of money I paid for my phone, I didn't find that very funny.
But like, and like I said, when it came to like, with the month of April, just like sitting there, he would join and I would already be asleep. And I don't know if you and him ever talked, but he kind of went out of his way to not talk to you or anybody else.
Mostly when he would talk to me, it would be to extend time or to gain time. He would not want to go to bed, even if you told him that he needed to be up early. So then he would magically need to tell me something, or
Yeah. It was always interesting how that worked. But when I was taking too long, it was just, I didn't get a choice. And then I could go back and he'd just yoink me back again. So, it was interesting how that worked. But then sometimes he didn't touch me at all. Like that entire month I sat in that call. Didn't.
I think that's because he knew what would happen, because at that point, I think at that point, during the last part of it, he was immensely scared of, Giggles and myself at one point, because at that point we had enough of his shit. And at that point we collectively, I think, agreed that, if he tried to do something, he would get a piece of our mind, or I'd get a piece of my mind, and I would not be very nice about it. The first few times he chewed him out, I was still trying to be very polite about it, but at that point, seeing the damage he caused, would have been the final straw. And yeah, at some point you just figured out there was no point, because you also just came back instantly, and at some point where he came to join, once you left 2 times, you would just chew him out in front of everybody and saying, don't fucking pull me when I'm talking to people. I think that you did that a few times before he stopped doing that.
I took his role away.
That might also be why.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Damien, I was like, what the fuck? Nightbot's here now.
yeah, I just want to say it's back.
Yeah, I want to see if it works now. Because before it didn't. It should. I think it's because of the stream elements bot. I don't think it got implemented properly. There it goes.
Oh, yeah.
Now it works. But like, no, after I chewed him out the first time and he did it again, I took his role away. So he didn't have admin anymore. Because it's that was the point where I was starting to get bolder, and then he told me a bunch of shit about you guys and kind of just shoved me back into my corner.
I don't think I heard this part. You said what about us? You don't have to go into much details, but I just got curious.
Painting you in a very similar light of what he's in right now.
Me?
That Matt just is being overprotective and he thinks he owns you and that you belong to him. And Giggles just doesn't want anybody else around you. He just wants you all to himself, and he doesn't want you to have other friends, and he just wants to be able to hang out with you all the time, and that's why he's always hanging out with you, and that's why he's always messaging you. And it kind of the again, not seeing the manipulation at the time and just kind of overthinking every time, and then being pushed into that corner of what if there's truth to what he's saying, and now I have no friends. Because I, at that point, was clinging so tightly to you two, because you were the only ones left. Like, I didn't have Gamer Jinx. I didn't have any of my IRL friends. I had the server, but anytime, if I were to have said anything to anybody, they would have said, Connor? No way. Like, Connor's a great guy. Like I said, everybody was like, what the fuck happened when I finally said, okay, he's not a part of the community, like, he's gone. Like, you guys were all I had left, and now here he is, he's telling me, no, like, they're just using you, they want you all to themselves, like, they don't care about your well-being, they just care that they have you and nobody else does, and it's just now just sitting in that corner going, is he right, is he lying to me, and not being able to ask the question to you guys. If I had come and talked to you guys would have set him straight, and you would have set me straight. But that fear of, now do I ask the question, and what if he's right? I don't want to know. I would rather sit in the corner and question myself and be gaslit than ask the question and find out that he's right, and find out that I have nobody left that I can go to. I have nobody left that I can talk to. Thank you, Damien.
I just gotta say that I found that immensely fucking funny, especially that he accused me of that. I mean, that's fucking rich. And yeah, I'll gladly count the fact at that point I was being overprotected, because at that point he was being what he is, but it doesn't really shock me that he tried to paint me and Giggles as the bad guys in that, just to cut you off.
I mean, in his mind we were.
Yeah, we were, but that's not because of what we did. It's because he saw us as the last obstacle to keep her in a place of permanent control. And I mean, luckily you and I are also stubborn and persistent, so I think it didn't count us on us being that persistent, because there were points where you withdrew, at least from me, to a point where we rarely talked for like a couple times. It could be weeks between us actually catching up. So luck, again, you and I are both persistent, so he didn't get that chance to actually do anything with it, because again, I knew that wasn't you. But still, just actually hearing and being confronted, like, he actually tried to paint me as somebody who is in the same like category as him, that's fucking rich, because if that's the last thing I'll ever be, is to be a guy like him.
Oh, I know. And
I know, you know.
and just Well, you guys remember when I went a whole day without talking to anybody, and the entire group lost their shit. And that kind of brought me back a little bit further. Like, they would, if they truly just didn't actually care, they wouldn't have cared. Clearly, there's not a lot of truth in what he's saying.
You were severely pissed at me.
I was mad because my phone kept fucking ringing, and I didn't want to answer it because I was at work. I eventually turned my phone off entirely, and then he got mad at me because I wouldn't answer him.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, at that point, nobody had heard from you for an extended period of time, and you blatantly just refused to answer any of us. And at that point, I just thought, fuck it. At this point, I'll deal with her potentially biting my head off. And you were very unpolitely told us to leave you the fuck alone. And at that point, I think we all said, okay, we got a reaction, not the desired reaction we wanted to, but we got a reaction, and still proof of life from her, saying, okay, now she's just, not just, I'm using just as air quotes, upset and mad at me. And again, I was willing to accept that outcome, and I think of all the things, you were probably more severely pissed at me because I was the one who set that shitstorm in motion and made sure people didn't stop calling until somebody heard from you.
I was just a whirlwind of emotions, which is part of why I withdrew that. And with everything he was saying, I didn't know who to trust anymore, so I just kind of withdrew from everybody. And then it just kind of went from there. And I still have messages. I reached out and I apologized to people because I didn't want to snap at you guys. I just didn't know I was at a point where I didn't know what to do anymore. And even before that, he was messing with my head, but that was like one of the biggest things. Like, they're just using you. And then a week, 2 weeks later, he's like, why do you even bother? Why do you put so much work into them? Like, it doesn't matter what you say. Like, they're gonna off themselves anyway. You might as well save yourself the heartache. Like, they don't care about you. You're not gonna stop them. Nothing you do is gonna change it. Like, you really think you matter that much? And that kind of flipped a switch. And kind of, yeah, it drove me back and away from you guys again. But then the whole incident happened with Connor and not telling me. And just the pure fear that went through me that I was going to lose one of you. And not like you were going to walk out of my life. Like, I was going to lose you permanently. Flipped a switch. And I didn't care what he fucking said at that point. And he got told that it wasn't his place, and I didn't give a shit what he thought. And that kind of flipped the switch for me to say, hey, enough is enough. Like, they are my friends. I don't give a shit what you say. I'm gonna do what I want. I'm gonna hang out with them if I want to fucking hang out with them. And kind of brought back, kind of cleared, I guess, all the lies that he'd been putting in my head, and kind of restored the clarity to the fact that you guys had been there for me no matter what. And it wasn't because I was paying you, it wasn't because you were getting views, it wasn't because you weren't getting anything out of it. You were there because you wanted to be there and you genuinely cared about me. And that was, like I said, that was the huge switch flip that I needed. It was a wake-up call. Am I really gonna let him bully me into this corner? And am I really gonna let that happen? Because I don't want to say anything to him. I don't want to upset him. I don't want to have that argument. precarious. Like, I don't want to have the argument because his mental health is so precarious. Like, I don't want to set him off. I don't want to make him have a mental breakdown. I don't want him to self-harm. I don't want him to, like... And it got to the point where it's like, no, nobody's life is worth your mental health. At that point, it's like, no. You're not taking that away from me. You're not taking that away from them. But like just some of the offhand comments he would make like that. And like not like a heavy comment that like that doesn't matter what you do, they're gonna off themselves anyway. Just like off the back of his hand and then go back to his game or whatever. Or like leave and go to work. Like,
Yeah, that's fucking beyond words. You don't say that. You don't. You might think that, but you don't say that. And again, that is putting you in same close territory as if you're actually telling somebody to go off themselves. Legally speaking, you are responsible if somebody does that because you said it. And I'm just gonna be a little bit annoying here and saying that, first of all, people who know me knows I am very against anti-bullying because what have happened to myself. And the law is that way. Also international law. That's it. If you bully somebody into offing themselves, you are legally responsible for it and you can be charged with it. So that's why I have a fit, and that's why I go after people who are saying, hey, keep it respectful, because again, people can't ascertain body language, tone. Again, you might have seen me saying something if you're in this Discord and then SFW. I don't care if it's a not safe for work chat. You can't ascertain key elements, tone of voice, body language. One thing is you might see clips or hear clips of us going off at each other. I can tell Giggles to go fuck himself in a way, because first of all, tone of voice, he knows me personally. I can tell him things. Again, we all know each other, we know how we're gonna act, and we can ascertain. But still, even though we know each other that well, even though me and Ice go almost 2 years back at the end of and actually in 3 months time it's over 2 years, we still can't ascertain all things from text.
but we also clarify.
We clarify and saying, how is this, and because you can't do that, and I don't care if it's meant as a joke or your best friend, you don't know. So banter is okay, we banter a lot and we call each other stupid shit, but we also know where the line goes, and when stop is set, it doesn't mean go on. If one of us verbally says stop or just indicates it's not okay, it stops. Because again, it's common respect, it's common human decency, and as much as we are assholes, we're assholes who have given consent to do it. I'm not just gonna go ram any of these two people when they have a bad day. First of all, then you're just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. You're not an asshole because you wanna make fun of your friends and banter with friends. You're just being an asshole for the sake of your amusement and taking advantage of people and making it so they possibly won't say anything to somebody that will cause detrimental effects to their mental health. So when all said and done, I don't care if you know each other. You just need to be clear, especially in text and Discord. Again, if you joined a new place and you saw just a bunch of people going after people, you would not think it's a safe place to be, and we strive, again, to keep it a safe place to be and make it a good place for people to be. And that means also sometimes we have to be the boogeyman, and I have no problem with taking that role, but again, it also just means when something is said, whether it's stop or disregarding for or other people with respect. When something is said, no, it's not okay, and please stop. Whether it's pressuring, like Connor did to Ice to do things she didn't want to do, turning things over to sexual, even though clearly stop has been said and indicated like there are not something that Ice wanted to go on. And now we're just talking about Ice's story here because that's what she needs right now. And so I'm sure it's still just when you go out of your way to manipulate and pressure people for your satisfaction, yes, you might get some out of it, like again, sexual release, whatever it is, but also just you don't realize what damage you're actually leaving behind because oftentimes you're leaving that person, and I can speak from personal experience on this, you're leaving them with a feeling of just being used. And if you haven't been, trust me, there's no worse feeling on earth than just feeling like you were a piece of meat or just something to be used for enjoyment, entertainment, or just because somebody was bored and going too hard to like just being used as a blanket for their attention, whatever it is. There is no worse feeling on earth being stuck with. And trust me when I say that feeling lingers and that stays with you.
Well, and it's
So just please, and this is going to be my last thing on this before I let us begin, think about what you say. Words have meaning and have consequences.
Some words can cut deeper than a knife.
Yes, and again, you cannot take anything back after it's said, because you might say something you think it's funny or as a joke, but again, we don't know everybody's story, so what you find funny might really trigger somebody and cause them to go on a bad spiral. I'm not saying we should be walking on kids' gloves about everything, but just please think about what you're saying does have meaning, and once it's said, even in the heat of your argument, once it's said, you can't take it back. Like when once words are said, you can't take it back, and when trust is broken, it'll never be the same. Yes, you might end up trusting that person again, but there's also always going to be that little chip on your shoulder and the back of your mind saying, hey, what if? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't trust the person, you don't care for them. It's just once you've first been experienced that traumatic experience from somebody you trust, it's very hard. You might trust again, but again, or might forgive, but you'll never trust the same way again. It'll always be in the back of your mind. Again, if you've been cheated on, you know this, and it always stays. It doesn't matter. We know it's not the same person. We know it's completely two different people with different intentions. But that feeling will always be there. The sheer bad whatever. Again, in my personal life, it comes, whether it's personal or professional, that bad feeling of the what ifs. We try and we each have our own ways of trying to reduce that, do some self-care, but in the back of the mind, it's still there. So that's just why it's so important. Just treat other people with human decency. Yes, if you've seen some of the stream I've been on, I make jokingly efforts about the people I experience in my day-to-day life as a retail employee, and I have said some things that are borderline close to crossing a line when I've been at work. Yes, but 99.9% of the time, I'm respectful. I might think people are asking me a stupid question, but again, it's sheer about, do you want to be that talking person that potentially can ruin somebody's day even more because you don't know what has happened to them that given day, or you can try to be a small positive thing in a world that is already bad and shitty. It's just sometimes just even smiling at somebody and treating them with human decency, letting them cut in line, let the mother who has two screaming children with them cut out in front of you, because again, that might make her entire day, and just see, hey, she can actually get home, get them to bed, and honestly, just sometimes, just slow down and think a little bit about the person in front of you or next to you saying, hey, I might have a shitty day because I was late for work, or been insane a bit and didn't get to play the video games because I had to study, or my parents were demanding stuff. And just think of again, I'm not saying everybody else has to watch it, that's not what I'm getting here, but sometimes it's just worth taking a big and saying, hey, if you're really in a rush and have a big, basket or a big thing tonight, just by all means cut in front of me, because I have the time to spare today. Sometimes just when you have, be the big person, just saying, hey, or if somebody flips you up or give you a snark comment, just saying, hey, okay, they might have something that just caused that, and just forgive and just move on, because again, if it's just somebody who's having a bad day, they might just take it out on you because they have a terrible situation going on. And really, the last thing we're going to say to that is the TikTok I found recently. I think I sent it to you guys. Was a grown TikToker, when he was out walking his dad, used to where his father kept a bunch of quarters in his pocket. So every time they were out walking, he would put a quarter in a parking meter that was close to ending, because that might be the small difference between a low-income family being able to put food on their table, because again, a parking ticket might cost anywhere from 50 to $100 where you are and how long it is. The meter's been run out, and a quarter, again, if you're in a position you can do that thing, that quarter might help change somebody's life. Make sure to get to their job interview, don't worry about bills or have a place to sleep, or can actually just put food on their table.
Yeah, something she said to me at some point was also there are two types of people in this world. The ones who have their things that happen to them, and they don't want anyone else to feel the same way. And the ones that inflict pain because they had those experiences.
So it's really just comes down to a small difference. Like again, you never know how small of a thing can actually help change somebody's entire day, week. Again, I'm in a position where my life that I can say, hey, money is a necessary thing for me to be able to live. But again, I would rather help somebody I care about. Because again, I have everything I need. I have a roof over my head, all my bills are paid each month, I have food on the table, I have the luxury to be able to eat what I want to eat every single day. It's just a matter of me just actually doing it and going out shopping. But I have the means to do that. So also, like as mentioned, she had really a mental breakdown over the sheer fact that I was just tossing $200 at her, because again, personally, I have the means. I don't need anything. Like, I have everything I need. Roof, head, I have my gaming PC, I have a laptop, I have everything I need for you. So for me being able to do that, saying, hey, now I'm gonna force you to spend this money on yourself because I know you never do that. Saying, hey, this is earmarked for one thing, and that's for you to spend on yourself. Because again, that's all this gift to her, saying, hey, go treat yourself. Because again, small thing. She cried, she yelled at me, she swore at me. But again, small things that allowed her to do something like she would have to immensely justify to herself, saying, oh, and you and I had a long debate about that thing. You're not using it for bills, you're not using it for anything, you're using it on you to something that's gonna help you.
I bought these for work and you yelled at me. My horns.
So again, small things. And would I have done it to any other people if I had no idea? Yes. Had it been a streamer, I had known their story. Yes. I have done that, and I still do that because again, I don't feel the need again to mention, because why? Because if I go out and do these things and talking about them, it really defeats the purpose, because then I'm doing it for my gains. I'm not doing it for my gains. I'm doing to try and be to make a small difference where I can in a world that is so self-set on tearing itself apart. where we only get glimpses of what it actually is humanity. And actually, that's a rarity these days. So, can I be that for someone? I'm damn sure it's gonna be it. If it can be with a small gift, with money to make the people sometimes spoil themselves because they've never been able to, because they had to always been brought in saying, "Hey, this and first." It can take. That's again, how many in my position are able to just go out? I can go get food when I want to, get a tattoo when I want to. Again, I'm lucky compared to a lot of people. I work my ass off on my money. So again, that also justify me to say, hey, this is my money. You're not gonna tell me how I spend my money. If I want to give that to somebody, I feel that could really make a difference. I don't really need it. It's a necessary thing for me to exist. But when all said and done, all my bills are paid consecutively each month. I have a roof over my head. Just by the sheer fact that I can say that I live alone in a big apartment, I have a roof over my head. That's a tremendous thing. And I know how lucky that is compared to people that are not in this fortunate to be in this position. So please, and this is my only prayer, like you think about sometimes, just treat anybody just with good respect. Like, even though you don't like the person, I'm not a cup of tea. None of us are, but at least even though you don't like them, treating people with just basic human respect doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to like the people. You just have to value them, saying, hey, this is also another human being. We might not like each other, but at least we can do is show common human decency and not try to just go after somebody because they're doing something you don't agree with.
Well, and
Then you're just an asshole for the sake of being an ass.
the other thing that goes with that is, like you said, what you say can stick with a person, but the other thing is, certain things aren't just going to affect that person. Like, when it came to a lot of the stuff that went on with Connor, unfortunately, Giggles is suffering a lot of the backlash because of that. I have to sit down and separate the two when things happen and get out of my head and get out of the anxiety. And that was a lot of why Giggles and I waited, was because I needed to be able to be sound of mind. And I mean, obviously I'm still processing as more stuff, as his friends tell me more, and as more stuff has come out since he left the community, and people aren't afraid to come forward, and like things are being said, and people are coming saying like, hey, he said this behind closed doors to us, and things like that. It becomes more to process. But unfortunately, he suffers a lot of the backlash of that, like in terms of trust issues and trauma and new triggers and things like that, and anxieties, and just in general how I conduct myself in a setting has changed because of him, and that now has a lasting effect on our relationship. And that's not fair, because sometimes when you choose to make a decision, and you might make that decision against one person in a moment of anger or a moment of fear or just pure frustration. You choose to make a decision against one person, but that ends up snowballing and affecting multiple people. And then you end up with a bunch of people hurt instead of the one person you were intending on hurting. It takes a second to make the decision to calm down before you say anything, or just walk away from a situation. But choosing to involve yourself in a situation like that, or knowing when the situation is over, when you've lost the fight, and knowing when to walk away from a situation, where Connor didn't. It got to a point where I was fighting back against him. Like, hey, no, I want to be able to see my friends. Like, there are my friends. They've been there when you haven't. And knowing and choosing to continue to inflict that pain and do that manipulation and say, no, they're really not. And like, you're doing all this for nothing and things like that. And like, going to the point of causing something and then pointing it out and twisting it to me, like, see how nobody hangs out with you anymore? They've realized that you're nothing, or they've realized that you're no fun and nobody wants you around anymore. That's why you have no friends. That's why you only hang out with those 4 people. Or like, notice how the boys haven't invited us to play GTA in a very long time? Like, that's because they don't like you. That's because you're right. And it's like, choosing to do that is, yeah, I don't know, but I feel like we're beating a dead horse at this point.
It's at least here, and this is again important. It's not about beating a dead horse. It's about you having a chance to saying everything like you feel you haven't had an opportunity to say. Again, because as we've talked about, Yumi and Giggles and Yumi and others, it's also just about you having the opportunity to say he's not this person everybody think he was, and making sure, again, as much as we can say, hey, you didn't deserve this, but also let people see, like, he's not the guy you think he, but or he makes sure people think he was, and of course he has his side of the story and what happened. But again, you sharing this again also brings people to say it's okay to talk about things that's happened. And what you're doing here, first of all, it's an immensely brave thing to do, and I'm proud of you for doing so. Again, showing a lot of people, especially this generation, but also the new one, that it's okay to talk about what happened. Again, you're not alone. People will be supporting, they'll be understanding, and like I said yesterday in a different swap, like, again, just by sharing what happened makes other people understand and makes you feel less alone. Like I told Giggles yesterday, also the TikTok I sent to both of you, where Stevio talked about what depression was to him. Like, that made me feel slightly less alone, because it hit a lot of points for me that I thought nobody else were having, like those feelings they could possibly understand. And again, just by sharing your story, our story, what happens, and being better to talk about it and help at the stigma, makes people think and show them hopefully they're not alone in this, and it's okay. We're just this time doing it in a more public platform, also to show what a manipulative and toxic person Connor actually is. We're doing it to let other people know, but we're also doing it to say, for your sake, saying, hey, it's okay to talk about it, and you need to get this off your chest, because it's still something that's weighing heavily on your mind. And again, as new information comes to light, it infects your relationship with Giggles. It's going to impact a lot of things you do, and by sharing that, also you're letting us know, and you're letting everybody know, hey, if you seem off or there's with good reason. And again, it also helps Giggles know, like, if you're doing something a certain way, it's not because necessarily anything he did, it's just a bad trauma response because what you were put through. And again, it's never an easy thing to talk about, saying, hey, this is why I do it, but just acknowledge and saying, hey, this is a trauma response because something I was exposed to. And when you're ready, you can also dive into that conversation, saying what caused it, but just saying, hey, this is just this is actually a trauma response. It's not necessarily something you did that blew it out to this big portion, but it's just the fact that, again, your tone of voice raised to a point where I associated with something that was uncomfortable, and that just triggered this one. It's not something you did, because all of us are gonna be disagreeing at one point, and we're gonna end up raising our voice at each other. But again, it was the point of saying, hey, this was just a debate that got out of hand over something stupid, a small misunderstanding, but the trauma response from the other person is still gonna be valid, even though you might think, oh, that's silly, we're just discussing about, let's say, fucking Pokemon cards here, or Minecraft or something. We're just discussing a thing of how this should be done. But still, the tone of voice got raised to a point where that other person associated with something that caused a trauma response, and we should acknowledge, okay, it's a trauma response. And then when it's all come down a bit, and we got our partner, our friend, to come down again to a person saying, hey, what actually happened here, because I thought we were just having a debate about fucking Minecraft Pokemon card, and you suddenly started like spiraling. Was it something I said? And then just think and giving you opportunity. No, it's not something you did. It's just the way things were said, and with the tone of voice, it was just saying, "Hey, this triggered my trauma response. It's nothing to do with you or the severity of what." But again, it's response. We can't control our responses, and the best we can do and help our friends, partners, and families is trying to think, okay, how do we act if this happens again? What can we do to make sure it doesn't happen? And if you're ready to talk about what caused it, then produce a safe space where people like, okay, they feel they can come talk to it about it, you know. So just to try and be a little bit more understanding, hey, and not blow it out before and say, oh, you got so upset over the fact that they didn't do this or they didn't do that. And trying to think, hey, they might have been again overwhelmed by something, anxiety, depression, a trauma response. Instead of getting mad at why somebody didn't take out the trash, do the dishes, or whatever that thing might be. Hey, we talked about things. What is there something happened? Did you have a bad day? Especially if you know it's your partner, friend, or family member that this is. Hey, what happened here? Because the way you reacted just seemed like to be a very, and you can still use the word overreaction to as maybe a small thing, but again, it might just be that small thing that caused everything else to overflow. And I know these two were chuckling because I'm world-class known not talking about my problems, because when it's anything that's too real to me, I shut down emotionally, and I brings a sledgehammer and tell me I should fucking just or do what I preach. Again, but that's me, the pot calling the kettle black, and I'm aware of my shortcomings, and I'm working on them with people I trust in a safe place that we have produced for you, our group, our little family. Like the entire server is a family, but we, four of us, Giggles, Ice, and myself, have managed to create a safe place through various bonding, sharing our story, and actually just knowing we are not alone. There's one of us that might be able to understand or relate and offer something that helps us cope with it, or just figure out, hey, this worked for me when if I experience this, or you should try and do this, and just it's a safe place, and we know nobody's gonna say anything once it is, and it's a saying, answering a question, how are you, with just some simple as yes or no is acceptable. We just know, okay, somebody saying, ask how you're doing, we just say yes or no. We just know, okay, then we know everything, and that terms we know there's something bothering, but again, if we need to talk, it's a safe place where we can do so, otherwise we just try and continue with the vibe that is, just trying to make people think that it's a place they can relax, they can talk, or whatever. I mean, those two normally just grunt at each other and make noises for entertainment purposes when they're scrolling TikTok, but that's the two of them, how they interact. And
did not need to come for us like that, Matt.
I did. I really did. Because it's also about your balance and thing. It has been a very heavy subject, at least for all of us. I know it's been for me. I can't imagine really how much it's taken toll on Ice. But some new information had come to light, again, how he have presented me in a way I really don't want to be perceived, and because I'm just mainly most of the time I'm just a big goofball with a strong moral complex, and I don't want to be anything else, because that's not who I want to be as a person. And as these two, normally we just shoot shit and send very bad memes to each other, like horribly bad, because we just want to try and make each other smile, and sometimes just take a little bit of the pain and the awfulness away, and just think, hey, today might have been a very bad day for one of us, but then we'll try and say, hey, some encouraging TikToks, very bad TikToks, or just come for each other with personal call outs, and we were just saying, you did, like, like, you didn't need to come first. And I kind of did, because that's the way I show I care, and he's gonna know I do it out of love. I don't do it to malicious or just be an asshole. I do it because, again, it's important for me. We're also saying this was a very heavy conversation, but also saying, hey, we'll also end on what can only be a semi good note, because as I said, I think we're coming to the natural conclusion of things where most of the things, I think I should correct me if I'm wrong, but said most of the things you wanted to, or at least for now. So trying to end this on a little bit more of a high note, a more comedic one, even though it's just me yappering.
You're
Still
okay.
trying to end it.
I got it now. I've got the mental capacity now. Hold on here a second.
Are you gonna yell at me now? Or
No, I'm not gonna yell at you now. I'm gonna.
No, we're gonna do that after stream.
That comes later.
Me yell at you? Never. Never.
No.
Never in a million years.
No.
I would never do that. No, that's not me at all.
I don't have the audio clips to prove it.
Fuck, I've got the VCs. Okay, go follow this bitch. Go follow him. That's all his shit.
No.
Go follow him. Go follow him.
Don't do it. It's a trap.
You guys all love him. You want to see him more? They literally beg for you to show up in the Discord. You need to start showing up in the Discord. They miss you. You owe Ace a video call.
Try.
You owe Ace a video call.
Also, just by the sheer fact that now I can do this because I feel awkward doing this while I'm having a heavy subject. So I'm just gonna choose to do this.
Matt.
I'm just doing that now. Entertainment purposes.
Thank you.
Oh, Matt.
You and Damien just paid. You got rid of Damien's name off my subscriber list. The recent subscriber, you took it away from them. You guys just paid for Diesel's food next month.
Oh,
So
I have
thank
a
you.
I have a 3 month running subscription.
I know, but those two subs makes enough to pay for a little bag of his food anyway. So you guys just bought his food for next month. So that is helpful. That is my priority for my little man. We didn't have a Diesel moment this stream. I feel like we need to have a Diesel moment to end off the stream.
Yeah, you need to go find Diesel.
Oh, he's in his cat tree.
His cat tree.
Yeah, he has a new cat tree.
Did you get him a new
Like a little house.
Was that your doing, Matt?
No. I'll see how I...
Just when she sees this, by all means, you're gonna shelter me for next week or so.
Oh, thanks, Damien. Do you want to refund them, Matt? Darling, you're
Yeah.
at your PC.
I can on PC.
Oh, somebody refund Damien so they don't have to pay for the Diesel moment. It's a free Diesel moment today.
Yeah. Also, bear in mind that you're not gonna like this. I'm gonna state this in advance. You're not gonna like it.
Oh, Matt.
Don't you start this. Hey, Diesel. Shh. Hey. Shh. You're okay. What's the matter? What happened? Shh. Baby. Shh. It's okay. What is the matter with you? Diesel, it's me.
He's gonna proceed to yell at me afterwards.
Probably.
How the fuck did Elk end up donating 22k bits? I am not even on the board anymore. What the fuck. It's Elg and Arjas. I'm coming for your fucking shoes. It's gonna be the left one.
Oh my. Hmm?
Okay, quick, you have to be entertaining. Be content.
I am not entertaining.
Giggle, speak content.
No,
No, shut up, be content.
I am not content. I am just,
Be a pretty
Matt,
girl.
what did you do?
No.
Nothing at all.
You just achieved a 5k bits thing. What did you do?
Nothing. I don't know what you're talking about.
How did you get the 5k bits thing when you only on my phone you only cheered 500? What happened?
It saved it. Progress. The next badge I'm liable to get is the.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that would be the 10k bit badge.
Are you coming back to get your?
Yeah.
You coming
Yeah.
back for your? Wait, hold on. When did Elk overtake Josh?
I don't know.
Did it?
Elk has 22,905. Our Josh has 20,000, and Krista has 15,340. Matt's not on the leaderboard.
No, but don't tempt me. Don't tempt me. Right
I
now.
don't know what's
No,
wrong with
no,
my
he didn't.
cat. I think he was still asleep, which is why he was like that. But I'm very concerned for my widow kitty cat.
He didn't appreciate it being bored out of his cat tree. At midnight or close to 1 a.m.
Well, I've never had him act like that, ever.
Hmm.
It's extremely out of character for him. But
Maybe
he also
was
could have just
dreaming
not
about-
liked the energy of the room, to be fair.
He might have been dreaming about Gwen Stefani.
That is oddly specific,
Or
Matt.
like JJ from Criminal Minds. Or Velma from Scooby-Doo. Those are his two favorite people.
I'm old, what's your point?
Scooby-Doo's older than you.
That's not what I was referring to.
What are you
Oh,
referring to? Gwen Stefani's not old.
I think he made fun about my specific choice as Gwen Stefani.
Yeah, but Gwen Stefani's
No,
not
I
old.
said it's oddly specific, Matt.
Yeah. What would you have said?
I don't fucking know.
You would have fucking said Edward from Twilight. You fucking vampire.
My
Fuck
mom's
yourself,
my
Matt.
mom's landlord calls him a vampire from Twilight.
He's a rejected wannabe Twilight figure.
I'm not. Okay, bye now. Jesus fucking Christ.
I need a drink. And a 6-month nap. That's what I
Twice a
need,
year.
Damien. So yes, I need sleep.
You need sleep, cuddles, and
Yes,
Potatoes.
can't finish that statement.
Hmm?
Did care to finish that statement?
Potatoes.
I said she needs sleep, cuddles, and potatoes.
Why, are we making potato vodka?
No, I like potatoes. and
No,
I have vodka sitting right here, but he's not letting me drink it.
no.
I've been saturating jelly beans in vodka.
No.
I just need to add milk to
No.
it. It tastes like jelly beans. I just gotta add like
No.
a
Put it down.
substitute to
Put
it.
it down.
What?
Put it down.
No. The two Doms are saying no.
And what am I?
A little
brat.
shit.
hmm No, man.
You're a little shit.
Oh, I thought you said little midget.
No.
Your fucking ass. I'm.
No,
God.
you're not a midget. You're a dwarf.
Nah, she's my little devil. It's fine.
Okay, before this turned into any more insane rambling, yeah, I think we've reached our natural course for the stream.
Yeah, can I do what I was gonna do now?
Yeah.
The links are in there. Go follow the bitch.
Don't do it. It's
Oh,
a trap.
you big
It's a
screen.
trap.
They follow you because they get extra me content. No, they just like you.
Still maintain it's a trap.
Yeah, what's Damien if I'm a dwarf? Fuck you
I
guys.
don't know how tall Damien.
They're shorter
how
than
tall
I
he
am.
is.
They're shorter than me.
But again, you're about as fucking tall as a stepping stool.
Everybody's just short.
I will backhand you with a stepping stool. Fuck around and find out, motherfucker.
I'm looking for it already. But how are you gonna smack me with it if you're standing on it to reach me?
I have a 6'2" wingspan. Care to try again, motherfucker?
Yeah.
I was supposed
do.
to have height. The rest of me didn't get the memo.
It's
Yeah.
fine, you're in prime swimming conditions.
Yes, except for I'm out of shape for swimming and would likely die if I tried it. I've been in the pool an hour and a half. Hour and a half. I haven't been in the pool an hour and a half. I haven't been in the pool in a year and a half.
And there goes the
Oh my
like, not only with time.
I'm just dyslexic with everything. Numbers, colors, time, letters, it's fine.
That's
You're 5'5". Damien, you and fucking Ice can be dwarf buddies. I think the minds of Moria are missing you too.
Jesus Christ, man.
Gimli wants company.
Oh, Matt.
I know this is a moot question, but I just realized Gimli found his Legolas. You two are a very tall person and a dwarf.
Did you I haven't even watched the movies and I'm offended.
I'm offended that you haven't watched the movies.
I know, it's a
That's-
war
I
crime. I've been
am
told.
working on that. I am working on that.
Guess what we're watching next? The extended versions.
No, we're doing a marathon.
Yeah.
With the extended versions, of course.
Just to let you know, that's about 16 hours.
I know.
I know.
I own them. I've just never watched them.
It's fine, I'll sit her down with Christmas. What?
I just got a very interesting DM from somebody. I've been told by a 5'5" person they will fight me.
You'll lose.
You'll lose.
No, it'll be great entertainment because they can't reach more than my kneecaps. But
Jesus Christ, Matt. Matt, you're short too, it's fine.
how am I short?
Everybody's short.
I'm shorter than you, yes.
Yes, as I said, everybody's short.
Yeah, but you also are fucking like 6'4".
Try 6'6".
See, I could make a joke now that would really be.
Oh boy.
Yes, can I help you?
Oh man.
Hey, at least I was just focusing on hating me for the time being.
Now,
She's gonna
Nightbot, I
hit you
think you're
with a frying
overdoing it.
pan.
Nightbot's making up for not having been here.
I bet you're just a few hours too late.
Alright, fuck off and skip off for a minute here. Shut up, don't judge me. They're gonna judge me anyway, but that's fine. Swear to God. Thank you everybody who wrote out the stream and is still here. I know it was an extremely hard topic to hear about. And I'm also made aware that some of you may be watching this at a later date. So thank you to those of you who have gone back and are now watching the VOD and are now watching the end of this via the VOD. I appreciate all of you guys and all the support that you guys have given. You guys are amazing. Like, you do not understand what that means. And
They should go back to sleep.
Probably.
Because I slept like fucking 3 hours.
She isn't deafened.
I know.
fuck you.
I didn't know what you said. I would have to go and watch the fucking,
All the... I swear to... I knew they were gonna talk. I knew I should have deafened, but I was too lazy to deafen. No, I know it's a difficult topic to be talking about. And again, I appreciate all the support. You guys have no idea what it means. Especially to have gone through something like this and have it been such an unexpected thing from them, given like you guys had this whole perspective of him just as I did, and just everyone did. And as more information comes out, and if it wasn't made clear, the reason why Connor was like, why it's no longer friendly, why I don't want it talking about it, is because it came out that, again, we were only together for the content. Like, he wanted the clout, he wanted me essentially to help produce his content for him. That was why we were together, and that was what came out, and that was why I put out the message after he left the server, was like, hey, like, look, this is what happened, we're not talking about it. Like, I didn't want to go into detail at that point because, again, I hadn't processed, but now you guys kind of know what's going on. And like I said, to those of you that are here in stream still yet, thank you. To those of you that are going to be watching the VODs later, thank you as well. And don't hesitate, if you have questions, feel free to reach out, DM me. I'm more than happy to answer them. If I feel it is too sensitive or too personal, I will leave it to a later date, or I will just simply tell you, I'll be like, hey, like, that's out of line. That's none of your business. But for the most part, you got questions, I am more than happy to answer them. You guys are wonderful. Like I said, I cannot stress that enough. You guys are amazing. And I would not be able to get through half of the shit that I get through without you guys. I love you guys so much. As always, we're going to do the candle, and we're going to attempt not to spray hot wax in my face. Nope. Come on. Come on. Haha. It worked this time. Because last time, remember, we sprayed hot wax all over my eyes. And that wasn't a fun day. Fuck you, Matt. I love you guys so much. You have a wonderful rest of your morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. Our next stream will be Tuesday. We will be doing Christmas decorations. We will be setting up the tree and setting up all these lights again, once again, getting all the purple lights and everything turned on. I will be buying batteries and stuff so we can get that all set up. And we will start doing the Christmas cards for y'all. And friendly reminder, there will be a stream on Wednesday, which we don't usually have, celebrating the 1 year. So definitely make sure you stop by. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, like I said, I love you guys so much. I appreciate you more than you will ever know, especially when it comes to difficult things like this. Like, you don't know what that means to an individual in general, but especially a content creator and a streamer and someone who we don't necessarily always have a supportive audience. There's a lot of stuff you see behind the scenes that you aren't privy to, simply because we are individuals who do have private lives, and especially when we're going through tough stuff like this, it really means a lot when you guys support us and have our back like that. So yeah, I will catch you guys on Tuesday on our next stream. And again, have an amazing morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you. I love you guys so much. You guys are great, and I will catch you in the next stream.